The whole thing goes down in a game called Evil Queen Maker, where you become a tutor in the demon world. Your mission was to make the weakest demon king become the ultimate boss in what was a super famous game. Our main character was one of the game's biggest fans and always defended it with everything he had on social media. The guy felt like a huge brown noser because the game just went downhill out of nowhere and ruined everything. It turns out the company got carried away with the success and released a new DLC in less than a year. But to everyone's surprise, the DLC came with a bunch of super bizarre and nonsensical endings. With that, our character, who was the biggest fan, became the biggest hater, posting some pretty harsh reviews. But the creators, who never responded to anyone, popped up and told him to create a better ending. At that exact moment, the boy's computer screen starts glowing in a really crazy way. Then he's pulled into a completely dark place and wonders where he is and what's happening to him. Suddenly, a giant red eye appears in front of him, making the guy totally freak out. Looking to the side, the guy sees a bunch of strange creatures coming out of a purple portal. Right after, a mysterious voice starts talking to him, but the dude doesn't understand a thing. His head starts to hurt a lot, and he wakes up with his vision all messed up, looking at a huge gate. Little by little, his vision returns to normal, and the image of the gate becomes clearer and clearer. When he gets up, the guy realizes he's in front of a giant castle and wonders where he is. He gets closer to the gate and touches it, feeling like he's seen this place in a dream before. Looking up, he sees a flag with a crest that he recognizes from the game Evil Queen Maker. With a shocked look on his face, the young man starts to figure out what might have happened to his life. Then the guy understands that if he was reincarnated in the game, that must be that little girl's castle. A butler appears and calls him Lord Nahen, leaving our main character even more confused. He stays quiet for a moment, trying to process this totally unexpected situation. Looking closer at the white-haired man, he recognizes Kane, who is a character from the game. The butler then says the same line from the game's introduction, confirming that this was all real. Right after, Kane bows, thanking him for volunteering to educate the Demon King. At this, the protagonist remembers the message from the game creators to create a much better ending. He then realizes he was sent into the game to do exactly that and finds the idea pretty ridiculous. Elsewhere, a voice asks a girl named Cecily how she's feeling. We see a little girl looking at herself in the mirror, and the maid asks if she didn't like the outfit. The little one then replies that she did like the outfit, but she's feeling a little strange. The maid with fox ears gets all giddy, thinking the girl is an adorable cutie. She tries to calm the girl down, saying she's just nervous because the tutor is arriving. To cheer the girl up, the maid hands her a pudding she had asked Chef Mark to make. The little girl thanks Cecily, who apologizes but can't stop thinking how cute Her Majesty is. At that moment, someone knocks on the door, and the butler Kane introduces himself to Lady Seere. He enters the room and announces that the person who will be her tutor is already waiting for her. The white-haired girl says she understands and gets ready to go meet the guy. Seere then walks past Kane, who is stunned by the little girl's incredibly dignified posture. Afterwards, she sits on the throne and says she is ready, leaving the butler super emotional. Meanwhile, we see Nahan's feet walking toward the main throne room. He arrives and introduces himself to the little one on the throne, saying it's a great honor to meet her. The young man then says his name is Nahen and bows in front of the young demon queen. We find out her name is Seere von Devada, a relative of the former second-rank demon king, but her father ended up losing his life in a war that happened about 2 years ago. Because of that, Seere became the demon queen at only 5 years old, which is pretty intense. As a result, the Devada clan fell to the last position in the ranking, 72nd place. And if the situation continued like that, they would end up losing even that position. The little girl runs towards Nahen, but ends up tripping and falling flat on her face in front of him. She gets up and tells the tutor not to worry, because to him, she is just a student. The man then gently pats her head and asks her to start calling him teacher. He smiles and says he will turn her into the supreme demon queen, and that he's looking forward to it. The little girl agrees excitedly, calling him teacher while he pats her head. As soon as the door closes, The young man shows a tired face and thinks he's in a huge mess. Then he falls to his knees on the room's floor, realizing the size of the problem he's gotten himself into. The man wonders if he's lost his mind or been possessed to have agreed to be Seere's tutor, but he remembers he was a crazy fan of the game and therefore knows everything about every event. But despair hits because playing with a mouse is very different from educating someone for real. The tutor wonders how he's going to teach the demon queen magic if he's clueless about it himself. He thinks that maybe he accepted the mission because he understands the little Seere's pain very well. Just when he was about to give up, a golden light suddenly starts coming from his left eye. With that, he starts receiving a bunch of memories that aren't his and realizes they belong to Nahan. The tutor then discovers that the body he now has belonged to a very strong and large demon. Feeling this new power and all this knowledge, the young man becomes much more confident in his mission. With a super determined look, he clenches his fist, believing that now he can really succeed. He smiles, thinking he can create not just a good ending, but the most perfect ending he ever imagined. A small version of him appears and wonders why he only remembers Nahan's nickname and not his real name. The next day, the class begins outside, and the student asks why they aren't in the classroom. The teacher replies that a place with more space is better, and she raises her hand, happily agreeing. Then he notices her teddy bear and asks if her friend will also be joining the class. Nahan suggests that the bear sit out so she can concentrate better, but the girl makes a very sad face. The teacher figures there's a story behind it, while Kane watches everything from a distance. So he introduces himself to the bear, Whitey, and asks him to concentrate on the class along with them. To seal the deal, the tutor shakes the teddy bear's hand with all the care in the world. The demon queen breaks into a huge smile and says that Whitey understood and the class can begin. He starts the lesson on how to use mana, but the girl asks why they aren't going to study the kingdom. The young man says that Kane has a very tough personality, and that's why he suggested that before. Then the tutor explains that to protect herself and her people, she needs to understand her power. The girl replies that it sounds great, but she has already learned all the studies of the Empire. But he says that these studies are only truly worthwhile when they are put into practice. Next, the teacher unrolls a scroll that has several strange symbols written on it. She asks what it is, and he explains that it's a training diary to help her practice. He promises to give her a pudding if she does the lesson, using what she likes to his advantage. Getting back to the topic, the tutor draws on the board that mana is divided into innate and usable. He asks what defines usable mana, but the little queen doesn't know the answer. The man then explains about the circuits in demons' bodies and asks about their function. The girl quickly raises her hand and answers that they are for being able to use mana. He confirms that the answer is correct and asks what happens when you have many circuits. With that, the girl concludes that usable mana is defined by the number of circuits. The teacher praises her for being smart and for being able to learn things so quickly. She gives a cute little laugh, and he thinks he should praise the girl more often to motivate her. Then he explains that innate mana is decided at birth, but circuits can be increased. The image shows a giant explosion of energy being released by them during training. Nahan raises his hand and shows that with training, you can use a huge amount of mana at once. Seere is blown away by how cool her teacher is, and Kane is also shocked by so much power. The butler thinks that even though he's an unknown demon, he certainly has the skills. The student asks if she can do that too, and the tutor assures her that with training, she can. He encourages her, reminding her that she is from the Devata clan, and the girl promises to try very hard. The gossip about the new tutor for the weakest demon queen spreads, but King Andromalius doesn't even care. The demon king Dantalion also ignores the news, thinking it's not something that will make money. The same thing happens with King Decorabia, who doesn't seem to care about the gossip at all. But for someone else, this news was very interesting, and a woman wonders what kind of sucker took the job. A man informs her that the tutor's name is Nahan, but that he found nothing about the guy. She finds that very interesting while her assistant watches her with his back to the bathtub. Then, with a smile on her face, the woman decides to leave her home for the first time in a long time. Meanwhile, Seere walks with determination to finish the difficult homework the teacher assigned. She runs into Cecily the maid, who greets her super happily, and the little one replies with a hello. Suddenly, the girl remembers the teacher's homework and seems to have a brilliant idea. A little embarrassed, she calls the maid, who looks at her with great curiosity. The fox-eared maid tells Her Majesty to go ahead and say what she wants. Then the girl shows the scroll and orders Cecily to start cleaning everything immediately. The maid is totally confused by the sudden order and asks what's going on. She says she was already cleaning the place, but the queen specifies that it must be a cleaning with magic. Still not understanding a thing, the woman asks the little queen to wait a minute and explain. Cecily then recognizes the scroll in her hand as some kind of training diary. At that, she understands that the tutor wants the girl to get used to acting like a queen by giving orders. The maid decides to play along and says she understood the order and will follow it completely. Seere is overjoyed to see her order was accepted, and her eyes sparkle with happiness. Then she says goodbye to go to her class, and Cecily thinks about how cute Her Majesty is. The little queen goes skipping and singing happily down the hallway on her way to her next class. Arriving there, she sees the teacher in talking and calls out to let them know she has arrived. The tutor congratulates her on finishing the assignment and decides to give her a present as a reward. He looks at the teddy bear and suggests giving Whitey a friend as a gift for her. The little girl's eyes fill with joy, and she gets super excited about the new idea. However, the butler Kane seems very worried about the suggestion while the girl celebrates. But suddenly, the little one's joy vanishes, and she seems to remember something important. With a very sad expression, she says it's okay and that she doesn't need the gift. The teacher then figures out that the castle's finances are a huge problem, just like in the original game. He offers to take care of the finances in Kane's place until she can do it herself. The girl is stunned by the offer and asks if the teacher would really do that for her. Kane is also in shock and asks if that was why he asked about the finances. The tutor then asks the butler if he doesn't want to see the little one happy with a new toy. The white-haired man is left speechless, and his face shows he was caught by surprise. Kane admits he really wants to see her happy, as an image of the girl with two bears appears. Nan says he understands the butler's concern, but he couldn't care less about money. He explains he's not taking the job because he thinks Kane is bad, but because he has his own strengths. The teacher then promises that soon Seere will be at the top of all the demon lords. The girl tugs on her teacher's clothes, calling him in a soft and very shy voice. She looks up with confidence and tells the man that she will trust him completely from now on. A glint of determination flashes in the Han's eyes upon hearing his student's words. With a smile, the little girl asks him to please earn a lot of money for the castle. The tutor smiles back and promises that soon the gold will start rolling in. Even so, the butler remains worried about whether it's right to leave everything in Nahen's hands. The class resumes, and the little one practices her magical power, following the teacher's tips. He notices that her magical power is huge, an incredible potential for the weakest lord. The young man notes that she is doing very well, and doesn't need to worry about her progress. After a while, he decides that's enough training for now and claps his hands to stop. The little girl falls to the ground exhausted, and Kane rushes to help since she doesn't have much energy. The tutor praises her good work and says they will rest before the endurance training. A little later, the little one is already running with her bear to improve her stamina. Seeing the scene, the teacher asks Kane why she is so attached to the teddy bear, Whitey. Kane reveals that it was a gift from her father, the previous demon lord, on her 5th birthday. Nahen thinks that her father's passing was significant, but that he'll tell her the truth when she's ready. At that moment, someone comes running and calls for the head butler, who turns to see who it is. Eldon, a servant of Seere, announces that a letter has arrived from the 71st floor below. The butler gets worried about what they might want, and Nahen calms him down, saying it's normal. In the demon realm, a 1-floor difference means a big difference in power and money. But the tutor smiles and tells Kane not to be afraid, because this was exactly what he was hoping for. A few days later, The castle gates open to receive a mysterious carriage. Nahan observes the coachman and notices that he's not just some random guy like he appears to be. The mysterious young man is surprised to have been noticed, but Nahan just keeps looking at him. Suddenly, a giant demon appears behind the coachman, and the tutor calls him Sage Baphomet. All the servants, including Cain, are shocked by the revelation of the guy's true name. The sage laughs and asks how he found out, but Nahan just replies that he found it interesting. An elegant woman steps out of the carriage with a smile and an air of being the boss of the place. The servants are left speechless by the beauty and strong presence of the unexpected visitor. Nahan bows and greets her formally, calling her Your Majesty Seere. She praises him for being able to see through Baphomet's disguise and says he's not ordinary. He replies with a smile that an ordinary guy couldn't be the teacher of a demon lord. Seere agrees with a sarcastic smile, and the two stare at each other with great suspicion. Cain worries about the teacher's arrogant tone, wondering what he might be planning. The woman asks what brings him here, and he invites her inside to talk first. He warns that this is Seere's territory and that she needs a good reason to enter. The visitor gets annoyed at being treated with such mockery by someone from such a low rank, but she calms down and says that is the ruler of the floor below. She has things to discuss. Baphomet thinks she's clever for using Seere's position to secure entry. The teacher apologizes for the rudeness and asks Cain to lead them to the living room. The woman tells Baphomet to wait, as she won't be long in the conversation. She enters the room and comments on the lack of servants in little Seere's castle. He replies that's what happens when money is tight, and she makes fun of the whole situation. Nahan invites her to sit, and she asks when the child will arrive for the meeting. The woman sits and says she has urgent financial matters to discuss with the queen. The tutor watches her and wonders if she's trying to seduce him with that pose. He then says she can talk to him, as he's the one handling all the finances. She is surprised and thinks that men are easy to fool, because they can't take their eyes off her. The woman explains that her soldiers were lost, helping to defend their floor from humans. She then says they need to cover the compensation money and the cost of extra personnel. The tutor gives a mocking smile upon hearing her story and her plan to get money out of them. She doesn't understand what he said and asks if she heard him right. He takes a sip of tea and faces her with a provocative smile before answering. The woman slams the table in anger and accuses him of having a disrespectful attitude towards a lord. She stands up, furious, and says he has really lost his mind to dare challenge her. The entire room trembles with the pressure of her angry and powerful aura being released. He asks why she's so mad, and if it's because he called her a third-rate bandit. With a flick of his hand, he throws Baphomet's unconscious body to the floor in front of her. She is shocked, and with her eyes glowing with anger, she yells that his arrogance is absurd. The woman unleashes all her power in an explosion of energy that almost destroys everything around. She glares at him with hatred and says he brought this punishment upon himself. But Nahan remains calm, sitting in his chair and sipping his tea very peacefully. He says he was going to let it slide out of respect for her, but now he has no other choice. With a simple gesture of his hand, he prepares to show her the true power he possesses. Her powerful flame of destruction is simply stopped by the tutor's calm gesture. With her eyes wide with shock, she wonders how her flames could have been stopped. Nan faces her with a dark aura and invites her to a more civilized conversation. He suggests they resolve things like intelligent demons instead of fighting. Then he says he has a good proposal for her that will definitely get her interested. Nan's shadow transforms into a terrifying demon with a giant red eye. The woman laughs and asks how he dares to make a proposal, but he assures her she won't refuse. He reveals that the proposal is about the seal that was placed on her, leaving her in total shock. She challenges him, saying that a nobody like him can't make a proposal she would ignore, but the tutor insists she will want to listen because it's about the seal that limits her powers. She gets furious and threatens him, telling him to leave if he's just going to repeat what she already knows. He then says that the sealing stone is on a floor governed by a higher demon lord. With a snap of his fingers, he makes a contract scroll appear and proposes a deal. The teacher offers to help her break the seal that binds her and limits her power. The woman stares at him in silence, processing the unexpected and very tempting proposal. She then asks how he plans to help her break a seal that is so powerful. With a confident smile, he says she just saw a small sample of his power. The image of the dark demon returns, showing the power he can easily control. She asks what he is exactly, and he replies that he is the mentor of the demon lord. With the contract in hand, he invites her to sign and seal the agreement they've made. The contract ensures that Seere will provide troops and money to the castle in exchange for support. She only signed because of the third article, which promises Nan's full support for her. She thinks the power he showed was absurd and wonders what his real strength is. With a satisfied smile, she decides it's a bet worth taking a risk on. Seere says he also needs to sign with his blood, and he agrees without a second thought. He sits down and prepares to sign the contract, using a small, sharp dagger. The contract is signed with the bloodied thumbprints of both, sealing the alliance between them. After the signing, the scroll floats in the air, glowing with a very strong magical light. The contract becomes official, and the scroll shines brightly before vanishing into thin air. He turns to her and says he will be in her care from now on. She replies that the feeling is mutual, and the two sealed a partnership with a handshake. Nahan then introduces Seere to Seere, saying she will be helping them from now on. The little queen thanks her, and the woman feels a bit awkward with all the formality. The tutor jokes that he'll have to teach her good manners, now that they are allies. She gets nervous and agrees to try to get along with the little demon queen. Seere then addresses Seere in a more respectful way, calling her Lady Seere. The man explains that now he needs to talk about how they will fulfill the contract they made. He then reveals with a smile that she will also be his student from now on. The woman is in shock, and her eyes widen at the totally unexpected news. She yells at him, asking what kind of nonsense he is talking about right now. He reminds her that now she is just another common demon lord that nobody remembers. She gets annoyed, and the tutor reminds her that she was the one who came asking for his help first. The teacher says she thinks her growth is over, and all that's left is to regain her power, but he states that she can still become much stronger than she can imagine. She thinks it's a lie, but upon remembering his power, she starts to consider the possibility. In the game, Seere became a strong ally of Seere, and he knows she can regain her strength. The woman tells him not to mess with a demon lord, but he says he's not messing around. He then tells her to go home and come back when she has time to start the training. The little queen gets annoyed and says her teacher isn't going anywhere with her. Seere sighs and agrees to come once a week for the lessons she'll have with him. She gets annoyed and asks if he's saying she'll become desperate to see him. He replies with a mysterious smile that she'll find out soon enough if that's true or not. The alliance with Seere was a success, but there were still many problems to solve at the castle. Seere's advisors, Zeka and Emselin, complain about having to be stuck in that place. A soldier tells Emselin to go back to his master if he doesn't like it, and he gets ticked off. Varuna, the vice commander of Seere's legion, appears and tells the soldier to keep talking. Emselin apologizes and promises to keep his men in line, but Varuna tells him to train more. A soldier asks Varuna if he's going to leave things like this with such a bad atmosphere. The vice commander sighs, frustrated with the situation and the group's lack of discipline. Rin El Raza, the commander of the legion, says they already knew things would get noisy. A few days later, the tutor sighs, tired from all the problems they are facing. Seere appears furiously and asks if he can no longer train her and what that means. He explains that he's busy merging their forces and doesn't have free time for training. With a sly smile, he says he would be very grateful if she could help with that. She gets annoyed that he's asking her to get involved and promises she'll get her revenge on him. He hears the threat and says that if it keeps her motivated, then it's a good thing for them. The tutor then asks for one more favor from her, to take care of the integration details. He takes Seere to meet Commander Rin El Raza and greets her formally. The man explains they are there to see where Seere will learn swordsmanship and sort things out. Varuna provokes him, saying that losing control of the chain of command is a job for him. The tutor replies that maintaining order is the obvious thing to do, and the vice commander asks if he has ever led troops. The young man, with a smile on his face, adjusts his clothes and prepares for the challenge ahead. Varuna says it's not a simple task to unite soldiers from different forces like theirs. Nahan challenges him to watch how he'll do it, and the vice commander accepts the bet. He then says he will watch very closely to see if the tutor can really pull it off. A little later, Seere's advisors look confused at two crossed swords on the ground. On the training field, all the soldiers watch the scene and wonder what's going on. Nahan thinks that Varuna is a skilled vice commander and very loyal to the end, but he knows his loyalty is only to Seere, and he's going to use that to his advantage now. The tutor approaches Amzelin and introduces himself as the mentor of the little demon queen. The lizard man says he knows who he is and accuses him of taking them from Her Majesty Seere. He replies that he did the right thing by taking in some lost souls with no help at all. Amzelin's eyes flash with anger at the teacher's provocation and his sheer audacity. He shakes Nan's hand firmly and calls him a royal mentor with a challenging tone. With his eyes gleaming, he asks if the tutor thinks he can say whatever he wants just because he's a mentor. The man just comments on the soldier's strong and slightly rude handshake. Suddenly, Amzelin feels a sharp pain in his hand and cries out from the force of the guy's grip. He recoils in pain, and the tutor scolds him for his tone of voice and his lack of respect. The teacher reminds him that the Lord he will now serve is right there in front of him. The lizard man asks if it was Seere who taught him to act like this, and accuses him of insulting her. The tutor realizes he still considers her his lord and places a hand on Seere's shoulder. He then tells the soldier to look carefully, because his new lord is the little Seere. The warrior is left speechless upon seeing the little girl and thinks about how super cute she is. But he insists that his only lord is Her Majesty Seere, and Nahan praises his courage. With a snap of his fingers, he uses his power to show the soldier what happens to those who disobey. All of Seere's soldiers fall to their knees under the pressure of Nahan's powerful aura. Amzelin also feels the pressure and groans in pain as he is forced to his knees. Varuna is shocked to feel the absurd amount of mana coming from the queen's tutor. The teacher says he has no need for dogs that don't obey and gives him one last chance. He asks if the soldier will cling to the past and disappear or bet on a new future. He explains that he swore loyalty to Seere and therefore must obey her orders. Nahan smiles and says that with that level of loyalty, he will be very useful to them. All of Seere's soldiers kneel and accept the new leader, leaving Varuna confused. Seere appears and scolds her soldiers for not listening and causing trouble for her. One of them tries to argue that the alliance is only on paper, but she tells him to shut up. She explains, a bit awkwardly, that they represent the bond between the two floors. The tutor reinforces that the alliance is super important for the war that is about to happen. The lizard man understands and apologizes for his rudeness, but she corrects him, very irritated. She points at him and asks once more who they serve from now on. He thinks for a moment, but then beats his chest with determination and prepares to answer. All of Seere's soldiers then declare together that they are the army of Lady Seere. The little queen is surprised, and the vice commander is shocked by the change of loyalty. The teacher turns to the woman with a smile and says he knew they would be useful. Seere gives her teacher a thumbs up, approving of what just happened. With everything settled, the teacher and his student give each other a thumbs up. Seere then asks if they can start her lesson, and he agrees right away. The tutor approaches Seere to begin the lesson, but she holds him tightly by the hand. He looks down at her hand and wonders what the little queen is doing now. He asks her to let go of his hand so he can teach, but the girl refuses to let go. With her cheeks puffed out, she repeats that she will not let go of his hand. No way. He realizes it's just a childish when he picks her up so he can teach the other one. Seere yells at him, asking how he's going to teach her with the girl in his arms. He assures her it's possible even in this situation, and she gets even more confused. The teacher then prepares to start the day's lesson with Seere in his arms. He releases a dark and powerful aura that fills the entire training ground at once. The tutor tells her that the goal of the training is to manage to hit him just once. She gets ticked off and asks how a training like this can possibly be useful to her. He smiles and says it will be very useful for her development as a demon lord. The woman tries to attack him, but is thrown back by the force of his dark and strong aura. He informs her that he is stronger than she was in the past and challenges her to surpass him. He provokes her to unleash her mana and try to hit him at least once. She tries very hard but can't move and wonders what kind of mana this is. The teacher thinks that a strong alliance is another form of power for the little demon queen. He taunts her, telling her to give up if it seems impossible, and she gets even more irritated. He explains that to survive in the middle realm, she needs to adapt to the dense mana. With a smile, he says that the increase in circuits in this process will be a bonus for her. Seere comments that Seere seems to be having a tough time, and he agrees. The girl asks why, and he prepares to explain the reason for her training. He reveals that one day, she will also have to go through this same type of training. The tutor advises her not to push herself too hard, considering her age and condition. She tells him to shut up and continues to struggle to get up from the ground again. She promises she will manage to hit him at least a single time in that day's training. He thinks that she wasn't ranked 12th for nothing, and that she adapts quickly. The little queen asks her teacher to give her a lesson too, because she wants to learn more. He thinks for a moment, but seeing her pleading eyes, he can't say no and agrees. He then says he will teach a bit of the advanced course from the lesson they had in the morning. Suddenly, he releases his mana, and the woman wonders what is happening now. The teacher tells her to take a break, and the pressure on her vanishes at once. He then asks Seere what she learned, and she explains about the so-called external mana. The girl thinks for a moment, trying to remember how to gather the mana that's in the air. The little queen then suggests that she ask the mana for help, and the teacher likes the idea. The girl then asks how she can ask for help if she's never spoken with mana, and the tutor calms her down with his hand glowing brightly. He says he will spread his mana to begin the process. Then the man releases his mana, explaining that by befriending it, you can bring it closer. This way, he can use much stronger magic by borrowing the power of his friends. At this, the teacher asks if the student wants to try, and she agrees, super excited about the idea. Full of determination, the little queen extends her hand to try to do the same thing, and little by little, a small amount of mana begins to gather on her fingers. Watching from afar, Seere is surprised by the scene as the tutor tells her to spread the mana. The demon woman is in shock at the power and wonders if this is really the mana of a child. With a serious look, she decides that this alliance between them must be protected at all costs. Now the teacher asks her to gather all the mana, and the girl obeys immediately. The little queen finds the sensation weird, and he explains that what she feels is the mana in the air. He suggests she try to use the mana she gathered by imagining a very bright and strong flame, and out of nowhere, a huge flaming skull materializes with impressive power. The teacher then creates a small fire skull on the tip of his finger as an example. The man then tells her to try to imitate what he did, but the student asks him to wait a minute. Suddenly, Seere appears and questions him about what he is teaching the girl. The demon woman reveals that it is a lost ancient magic, and he feigns surprise. She asks how he knows this magic, but the man dodges the question and focuses on her lesson. The tutor then asks if Seere can follow the example, and she confirms, super excited. With her eyes closed, the little lord concentrates while imagining a flame in her hand. Successfully, she manages to manifest the words of the spell in her glowing hand. The little girl is amazed by the small flame, and her teacher congratulates her. The tutor gives her a pat on the head and says she needs to practice to gather mana easily. He mentions that her goal in the training is to hit him, and she denies it, embarrassed. Seere asks him to teach her the ancient magic, but the tutor refuses due to a lack of trust. With a sly smile, he thinks he can take advantage and suggests teaching her if they get closer. The demoness turns bright red and repeats his suggestion about them getting closer. Clenching her fist, she convinces herself that this is nothing, and it's just to get stronger. Then she asks what his type is, leaving the tutor and the student completely confused. She explains her logic, but the man corrects her, saying he's talking about the trust between the floors. Very embarrassed, she asks him to forget it, and he tells her to bring him a good proposal. Meanwhile, little Seere just watches the whole confusing situation with an innocent look. He then remembers that the original Nihan knows ancient magic because he's a great demon. He thinks that in the game, these demons were very powerful and mysterious beings. The strange thing is that his body distrusts other demons, but he decides to take it slow. Sitting at his desk, he realizes that the most urgent problem is territory expansion. He dismisses going to the human world and also the 71st floor, which is Seere's domain. A frontal assault with Seere would be risky, and he looks for a plan until something catches his eye. The next day, the little girl calls for him, and the teacher turns around, surprised to see her. The commander apologizes and says Her Majesty insisted on coming along with her. With Seere on his lap, he thanks the woman for coming, and she says she was summoned by him. The tutor reveals that the matter is territory expansion, and the commander is quite surprised. The woman says that conquering the 70th floor is difficult as they are at a military disadvantage. While she advises him to be careful, the man simply hands her a piece of paper. After reading it, the woman realizes the plan suggests a victory without a frontal assault. With a confident smile, he asks for her opinion and says it's a good card up their sleeve. The commander rereads the document and confirms that without a direct confrontation, victory is possible. The tutor insists on knowing her opinion and reinforces that their plan is very solid. The commander then says she will choose soldiers who are skilled in infiltration for the mission. She worries about internal disputes, but the tutor assures her that now everyone will obey. He suggests creating a separate legion for the new soldiers to avoid more problems. The woman asks how this would make the new recruits loyal to the little queen. The man explains that upon seeing the girl's efforts for them, the soldiers will become loyal. Then he asks for the student's opinion, and the girl says she likes everything that was planned. With a clenched fist, the demoness states that she will help expand their influence. She gets annoyed by his look, but the tutor just thinks that the plan will work out. The teacher notices his student is going somewhere and asks about it. The girl joins Seere on the ground and says they should do their training together. He finds the situation amusing because they say doing things in pairs is less tiring. The other woman is completely speechless at the cute little girl's attitude. With a smile, the Lord mimics the demoness, who finds it tiring to deal with so much cuteness. The tutor approaches and says that her teddy bear will get all dirty like that. He picks her up and promises they will wash the bear together later, and the girl agrees happily. The demoness then asks if he has experience dealing with small children. He explains that he just thinks of the best way for the girl to accept things and does it. Then he teases her, saying that she then acts without thinking, and Seere gets annoyed. With a snap of his fingers, the man says to pause the training to continue the discussion. She stretches and says she will help with the plan, but he wouldn't believe her reasons. The woman reveals that they were also preparing for a war that was coming. The tutor thinks that the game's story has changed because he moved all his plans forward. He accepts her help, and the demoness calls him shameless and asks what she should do. He suggests a bold attack and guarantees that her forces will not suffer heavy losses. She realizes the idea is to fake a combat, and he praises her, leaving her confused. Seere asks why she would be the bait, and he just hands her a document with the strategy. Reading the paper, she discovers a conflict between two important lords of the 70th floor. She sees the opportunity, and the teacher confirms that he intends to bring one of them to his side. With a smile, the woman says she already knows who they will send for the contact mission. She asks about the division of profits, and he suggests 50% for each. With a smile, he says that's only natural, because the alliance between them needs to continue. The tutor then teases her for never believing him, and says the final decision is hers. Suddenly, he releases his dark and powerful aura, leaving the woman in a total panic. He says to resume training, and she complains that this is too much for her to handle. Sometime later, the little queen's teddy bear is clean and shining like new again. With great joy, the little girl runs to find her teacher in the castle corridors. He picks her up, and she celebrates happily that her stuffed friend is all clean. At that, the man notices her hair is different and asks if she dyed it. A servant explains that her race stores mana in their hair, which is why they are great mages. The teacher is shocked to learn this, as it was info that didn't exist in the game. The servant reveals that the previous lord had half of his hair red from so much stored mana. The tutor realizes that with this, the little queen can use high mana consumption spells. He warns her that from now on, she will have to train a lot to gather external mana. Holding the girl, he asks the servant where their legion commander is now. The scene then shifts to the 70th floor, which is ruled by the demon Lord Andromalius. A masked figure watches the dark city from a rooftop. With a signal from their leader, the group advances through the streets, defeating all the guards in their path. The commander thinks her partner is skilled and wonders if the tutor knew about it. Two figures leap between the city's buildings, using bright blue energy ropes. The two warriors continue to move with agility under the light of the full moon. The group reaches their destination and prepares to start observing the target location. The commander watches the moon and the forest from the top of a tree while she waits. The other team members spread out in the surroundings and get into attack positions. One of the soldiers with wings comments that there is nothing suspicious about the cabin they are watching. The commander then explains that the missions is to conquer the floor and bring Eren to their side. A soldier questions if this is possible, but she reminds him that they just follow orders. With the order given, the team advances quickly towards their main objective. They approach the isolated wooden cabin in the middle of the very dark forest. Suddenly, a voice interrupts them and tells them to stop where they are immediately. The team stops as they are surrounded by several guards who were waiting for them at the cabin's entrance. One of the guards asks who they are, and the commander notes that they are well trained. A large man with horns appears at the door and introduces himself as Eren Raiders. With a pipe in his mouth, the man asks who among them is the group's representative. The blue-haired woman then prepares to answer and removes the mask from her face. She reveals herself and says she is the representative of the group that is there for the negotiation. The guards recognize her as Lin El Laza, one of Seere's swords, and are shocked. She says she has given up that title and is now the sword of the little majesty Seere. The man then realizes that the little queen plans to take the entire 70th floor for herself. He questions if she really believes that's possible, and she confirms it with certainty. The commander says that with just Seere and herself, they could defeat Andromalius. The man says that war is different, and she replies that's why they need his help. She says she can't reveal everything but states that there is someone they cannot touch, and this someone, by Seere's side, is so powerful that not even 100 of them together could harm him. The leader is in shock at the revelation and wonders if she is telling the truth. He accuses her of joking, but the woman responds with a very serious look. The man says that if someone like that exists, they wouldn't need help, and she corrects him. With a threatening look, she warns that if he betrays them, he will not escape the consequences. He wonders if that's a threat or a test, but remembers the strength of the swords. The man then asks her to get straight to the point and say what they want from him. The commander then offers him status and rewards to join them. The negotiation is a success, and the commander thanks her lord for all the help. The tutor congratulates her and tells her to prepare, because the attack will be soon. The man notices she is thoughtful and asks if the commander has something to say. The woman questions him about the reason he volunteered to be Seere's tutor. She says the position of royal tutor is small compared to the abilities he possesses. The commander thinks it makes no sense for someone like him to choose the lowest floor. The woman suggests he might have other intentions, like stealing the throne, for example. The tutor thinks he can't tell the truth and that any random excuse won't work. With a sly smile, he decides to be honest and says he did it just for fun. The commander is confused, and he explains the pleasure of creating a demon king. With his eyes gleaming, he reveals that nothing makes him happier than seeing his plans succeed. She asks if it's all for fun, and he says that was the initial reason. The teacher says he likes being with them because they have the cutest demon queen. He also praises Kane as a loyal and very firm strategist in his decisions. The man mentions Lee, who has a good heart and takes good care of the castle's affairs. He also praises Cecily and Mark for their excellent work and gifts in the kitchen. The tutor comments that Baruna is rebellious, but his skills and loyalty are unquestionable. Finally, he praises her as strong, loyal, and beautiful, leaving the commander all flustered. He says he likes all of them, and that it's better to see them in person than in a game. The tutor promises he will never betray them, and the commander watches him with a serious look. The commander thanks him, but the tutor says her loyalty is to the little queen. With a smile, he praises her loyalty for questioning him to protect her majesty. She leaves to rest and thinks that the queen is surrounded by very good and loyal people. Suddenly, the student appears, and the teacher asks what she's doing there outside of lesson time. She wants to play, but seeing him with the finances, she asks to watch, and he teaches her. He shows her a petition about spoiled crops and asks what she would do in the situation. The girl suggests giving them food, but he proposes selling a portion at a very low price. She then wonders what to do if the farmers don't have money to buy it. The teacher introduces the idea of a grain loan system, and she jots it all down. He explains that the castle lends food now, and the farmers pay it back with the next harvest. The little lord understands that this solves the problem, and doesn't cause a loss for the castle. The servant Lee enters and apologizes for interrupting, but informs them it's time for the queen's snack. The tutor tells the student to go have a snack, and she gets excited at the thought of having pudding. The servant says the snack is cake, and the girl is hesitant, but the teacher gets confused. With a big smile, she invites him to eat with her and share the snack. The servant is shocked by the invitation, because the little queen never shares her food. The tutor finds the situation amusing, but thinks it's a sign that he has gained her trust. He then accepts the invitation, and the girl excitedly pulls him to go eat the delicious cake. The teacher realizes that he has truly won his student's trust with this gesture. Kane finds him in the hallway and says he needs to deliver an important document to him. The servant reveals that the message came from the 71st floor and hands him the paper. With a serious look, the tutor understands that the plan is about to truly begin. He smiles and says that today's snack will be even sweeter, because everything is ready. Elsewhere, a man is shocked to learn that Seere has declared war against them. Angrily, he slams the table and wonders how the 71st floor dares to challenge them. This is Andromalius, the demon king of the 70th floor, and he thinks Seere has gone mad. An advisor urges caution, but the king ignores him because her powers are sealed. He wonders if she has a plan, and a servant says he has some suspicions about it. Count Eugene reveals that there are rumors of an alliance between her floor and Seere's. Furthermore, spies have seen Seere frequently descending to the 72nd floor. The king laughs at the idea, but a noble warns him about the presence of the former sword of Seere. The count adds that the new royal tutor of the 72nd floor is no ordinary person. The king doubts that someone so good would accept a position on the lowest floor of all. Eugene says the tutor was the one who secured the alliance with Seere, and the king is surprised. The count suggests an all-out war from the start to use their superior military strength. Then the advisor approaches and whispers something in the king's ear, which shocks him. With a confident smile, the king accepts the proposal and prepares to show his power. He then notices that Count Aaron and his people are not present at the war meeting. With great anger in his eyes, he orders his guards to drag Aaron into his presence. Suddenly, a soldier runs into the throne room with very bad news. The king asks the reason for all the commotion and what is happening outside. The soldier informs him that Seere's army is already setting up camp outside. The demon king is completely shocked by the speed of the enemy's attack. In a fury, he realizes he has been betrayed and that Count Aaron is behind it all. Count Eugene asks for orders and says his forces are already ready to march. All the nobles shout for the end of Seere and the traitor who joined her. The king then gives the order for all his troops to advance and finish the enemies. Meanwhile, the little queen wears armor and prepares for what is to come. She complains that the helmet is stuffy, but the tutor says it could save her life. He promises a piece of cake as a reward, and the girl agrees excitedly with the plan. With the student on his lap, he asks Kane where the commander is and says they need to go soon. He then says goodbye and leaves with the little queen, while Kane wishes them success. The teacher and his troops meet Baruna in front of a portal, and he asks if he's ready. The vice commander explains that Seere provided a temporary portal that will take them to the 70th floor. With a mocking look, the man comments that the portal is bad and tells everyone to enter. With the little lord in his arms, the teacher walks toward the glowing blue portal. The scene shows the portal still active, while the troops wait on the other side to advance. On a rooftop, some assassins watch the empty castle, and one of them questions the enemy's intelligence. Commander Duncan says they left the castle empty, and for that, they will pay the price. The leader of the assassins then prepares and gives the signal for his men to begin the attack. With the order to eliminate everything, the assassins jump from the roof and invade the castle. Arriving at their destination, Baruna asks if it's safe to leave the castle completely empty. The vice commander says the enemy has an assassin unit, and the tutor confirms the suspicion. With a confident smile, the teacher assures that a surprise attack like this will be useless. In the castle, one of the invaders is hit hard and thrown far away with a single blow. One of the assassins is shocked to see his partner defeated so easily. The group's leader looks at the scene, not understanding what is happening at that moment. The servant Kane appears, holding one of the assassins, and says he doesn't remember having guests. With a strong posture, the butler then asks who they are and what they are doing there. Baruna wonders how the tutor knew, and he replies that some things you just can't hide. Suddenly, one of the assassins is thrown violently through a castle window. The servant Cecily appears at the window and informs the butler that her area is now clear. Lee says she took care of 2 invaders, and Kane apologizes for having overdone it a bit. The cook Mark appears with an invader and says a little rat got into his kitchen. The servant confirms that everyone is fine, but the unexpected guest doesn't seem well at all. The tutor remembers that Seere's servants were chosen for their fighting skills. Baruna admits he didn't like the teacher, but acknowledges his skills and asks for orders. The man then tells the vice commander that he is mistaken about something important. He explains that the soldier's loyalty is not to him, but to the little Seere. The vice commander gets the message, and then directly asks for orders from His Majesty. The little lord asks the tutor to be the commander, and he accepts the request easily. The teacher then orders Baruna to join and support Commander Lin's forces. The student asks where they are going, and he says they are going to see Seere, making the girl excited. Seere observes the troops, and her advisor is impressed with Nahen's capabilities. The advisor calls him a dangerous man and suggests they take action soon. The demoness warns him to never cross the teacher's path, as one mistake would be fatal. She then says they just need to do their part, take what's theirs, and leave. A large explosion happens in the distance, and the woman comments that it was a spectacular start. The Demon King is furious to learn that Aaron's forces have invaded his castle. He refuses to flee and says that if the traitor wants to come, then he will take care of everything himself. Suddenly, a beam of blue light cuts through the darkness at high speed and advances. The attack causes a huge explosion inside the throne room and startles everyone. The Demon King smiles and says, "Speak of the devil, the timing couldn't be better." Commander Lin and her troops enter the throne room and prepare for the fight. The Demon King then orders his guards to receive the guests, and they advance to attack. The commander, with her hand on her sword, comments that this floor's reception is pathetic. The Lord then taunts Aaron and asks if he thinks Seere's swords can save him. The Demon King then promises that he will finish the traitor with his own hands. A voice then says he'll have to try that in his next life, because it's not happening now. The commander advances at high speed and defeats several guards in her path. A soldier of Andromalius charges at the commander with his weapon in hand. With his eyes glowing, the Demon King calls her arrogant and prepares for combat. He advances with his sword and says he will personally test her skills. The commander prepares for the blow and manages to defend against the enemy's attack. The force of the impact throws her back, but she manages to recover in time again. The Lord praises her for her speed and admits She lives up to the title of sword. Count Eugene is startled by the scene as the king advances for a new attack. With a single blow, the demon lord manages to hit the advisor dead on. The commander is in shock seeing the scene, and the enemy king's cruelty to his own ally. With a wicked smile, he says that now the real fun will truly begin. A huge hydra-like creature emerges from the advisor's body, and the woman is startled. The king then orders the creature to attack, and it advances with its mouth wide open. Watching from afar, Seere asks why the tutor came there, and he says he came to see her. She questions if they can handle the enemy, and the man says that with a little help, yes. The teacher then hands the little queen to the demoness, who is confused by the action. He explains that there are too many distractions to take the girl and asks her to wait. The man then hands a toy to the student, but she refuses to stay there. With a serious look, the tutor realizes he needs to go quickly because something is very wrong. He senses a strange energy and knows that it shouldn't be there at that moment. The little lord is worried, but he warns that the commander might be in danger. The teacher then says goodbye and leaves at high speed for the battlefield. The demoness is stunned by his speed and wonders just how strong he is. The advisor suggests something, but Seere tells him to shut up and says this is a test. She warns him not to try anything and to treat the little queen with the same respect. The girl then hugs the new toy and seems to have really liked his gift. Elsewhere, a soldier is hit hard and falls to the ground with a serious injury. The soldier Bruna prepares for combat with his sword in hand and a serious look. The man advances with a furious look and prepares to attack the enemy in front of him. He is hit by a powerful blow and is thrown forcefully against the wall of the place. An enemy soldier hits him with a punch and throws him even farther to the ground. The enemy taunts him, and the king tells him to keep fighting because it's all he can do. The commander realizes the Hydra is not normal, and its power rivals that of a demon king. She is attacked by the creature and wonders if this is her end in the current battle. With her eyes closed, the woman apologizes to Her Majesty for having failed her. Suddenly, a strange light catches everyone's attention there, and they look up. A dark figure appears behind the commander, and she doesn't understand what's happening. The demon king is on the ground and asks who the mysterious figure that defeated him is. The teacher then sits on the throne and suggests that the Lord surrender immediately. With a cold look, the teacher speaks to the defeated demon king and suggests he surrender. Lying on the floor, the Lord wonders what happened and where all this power came from. He then recognizes this feeling and compares it to that of the #1 ranked demon king, grabbing the enemy by the neck. Andromalius asks why he joins such a weak group. With a sword glowing red, the tutor simply tells the demon king to shut up. The man offers money and fame and asks the teacher to join his army of soldiers. Desperate, the Lord says he will give him everything, and the tutor replies he just wants to reach the top. His eye glows and reveals that he seeks the highest point a demon king can reach. The Lord realizes this is impossible and understands why the man went to the Devata clan. The sword's blade gleams and reflects the fear in the defeated demon king's eyes. The teacher warns that he won't forgive him for messing with a power he can't control. But the Lord laughs and says that in war, what matters is winning, no matter how you do it. The man then attacks with his sword and ends the conversation with a single finishing blow. With his foot on the enemy's chest, he prepares to declare the end of that battle. The tutor declares that the war is over and orders the enemy soldiers to lower their weapons. The soldiers outside hear the news that their lord has been defeated in combat. They receive the order to surrender, and one of them can't believe what he just heard. In her tent, Seere is surprised by the speed, but soon understands that it makes sense. The little lord then recognizes her teacher's voice and gets very excited to see him. The commander apologizes, but the tutor comforts her and says it's been a while since she last fought. He thinks the aura was that of a dragon and that this has never happened before in the game. The man tells her that Seere will take the credit, and the commander understands the plan. The tutor asks them to take care of the cleanup and says he needs to see Seere, leaving the commander confused. He explains that the girl is with Seere and that the demoness won't do anything wrong. With a nod, the commander leaves at high speed to carry out her new orders. The scene then takes us to the tent, where the little queen was waiting for the result. A servant informs that the soldiers have surrendered, and Seere is shocked by how easy it was. The little lord announces that her teacher is coming, and the demoness doesn't understand how. He suddenly appears and asks if they had fun, and the student says yes. The advisor is shocked by his speed, and the man pats the girl's head. He then throws a bag to the demoness, who catches it and asks what it is. The tutor reveals it's Andromalius's head and asks her to take the credit for it. With a smirk, he says the reason is because they are allies. He says goodbye and tells them to divide what they won, but the demoness remains suspicious. Elsewhere, the butler Kane tries to fix a door with a hammer in hand. A portal of blue light suddenly opens in the middle of the castle's main hall. Kane welcomes them back, and the teacher notices the front door is broken. The butler apologizes, but the tutor praises his work and understands there was an invasion. The servant congratulates everyone, but the man says this was just the first step. He then reveals he will give the 70th floor castle to Seere, and the student is shocked. The butler is speechless and can't believe what he just heard. He questions the decision and says they are losing a lot by giving her the credit. The butler reinforces that the castle symbolizes their conquest, but the tutor confirms the decision. He explains that they need resources and that their finances are not yet sufficient. Then he says they need to be discreet, which is why he gave the victory's credit to Seere. The teacher then asks the student who will be responsible for the 70th floor now. With a smile, he agrees and says she also needed to prove she is still strong. The butler is impressed, and the man says he's not one to give things away for free. The tutor says he will focus on the girl's education and the castle's internal affairs. As they go up the stairs, Kane watches and understands his new lord's plan. The butler then asks how he was so sure he could convince Aaron. The tutor whispers to the student that he got lucky because it was a random event in the game. Kane realizes the teacher is extraordinary and that Her Majesty needs to keep him close. He then says goodbye and wishes Kane good luck with fixing the castle door. In the hallway, he says he will focus on her training and the duties of a monarch. The man touches the girl's forehead and remembers that the true ruler of that place is her. With a big smile, the student says the classes are fun and that she will learn everything. The teacher is happy to see his methods are working and that she is enjoying it. He says he'll take care of the paperwork, but the little queen refuses to let him go. The servant Cecily appears and says that those who work hard also need to rest a lot. The girl then asks the tutor to take a nap with her and makes a pleading face. He understands he has no choice and agrees to take a nap before getting back to work. In the room, the servant Leah welcomes them, and the man asks her to bring some hot tea for Seere. He then looks at the servant and asks if she got hurt during the castle invasion. With a flushed face, the woman replies that she is fine and wasn't injured in the attack. Satisfied, he asks for the tea, and the servant realizes he already understood everything that happened. He puts the girl in bed, and she asks if something happened to Lee, but he says no. The tutor covers her up and wishes her sweet dreams as she hugs her teddy bear. But the little queen holds his hand and insists that he sleep there with her. The man wonders if she's needy because of her father or if she feels safe with him. He then agrees to sleep with her and decides to stay until the little lord falls asleep. On another floor, the demon king Dentalion finds out that Andromalius was taken out by Seere. His commander suggests it was because of the alliance with the 72nd floor and the sword. Minister Alvas says they are the next target and that they need to prepare for war. The king then decides to send a letter to the 68th floor to form an alliance. He knows that if he stays put, he'll be next because Andromalius was stronger than him. With a serious look, the king orders the letter to be prepared, as the ally will have no way to refuse. Back in the room, the servant Lee knocks on the door and announces that the tea is ready. Upon entering the room, the woman is completely surprised by the scenes she finds. She sees the teacher and the little queen sleeping together in the bed, looking exhausted. The scene shows the two sleeping peacefully, hugging the teddy bear. A week later, the tutor complains about Seere's delay in dividing the spoils of war. The demoness says she divided the territory and the troops, and that only the battle loot is left. He then asks to choose first, but she says only if the division is fair. The man reminds her to train once a week, so as not to waste their efforts. The demon lord tells him not to worry, because she is also a demon lord. She says goodbye, and the teacher goes back to work to finish the night's guidelines. Suddenly, someone knocks on the office door, and he tells the person to come in. The servant Cecily enters and informs him that Her Majesty's class will have to be cancelled today. He is startled to hear that the little queen has a fever and gets up immediately. Worried, he wonders if he demanded too much from her, or if it was because of the battle. The servant tries to calm him down and says, it's just a common cold for children her age. He agrees and asks her to take good care of the girl while he solves the problems. Alone, the tutor realizes he needs to be more careful because this is no longer a game. He finishes his work and goes to see the student, bringing some dolls she really likes. The girl wakes up happy with the gifts and thanks the teacher for the kind gesture, but the man reveals he brought much more and fills the room with various stuffed animals. Buried under the dolls, the little lord asks him to stop because it's already enough. The girl then falls asleep and dreams. She's being swallowed by a mountain of dolls. Beside her, the tutor holds a paper and a doll and realizes something is wrong. The tutor realizes she's dreaming and wonders what she's dreaming about. He then touches the girl's forehead and sees that the fever has gone down and she will be fine. But the little queen wakes up, and the teacher apologizes for waking her up by accident. He asks how she is, and the girl says she's fine and asks if he was worried. The man tells her to rest a little more and says they can work together tomorrow. He reminds her that if she doesn't get better, she'll miss out on the pudding, and she's shocked at the idea. With a gentle smile, the tutor wishes her sweet dreams and lets her rest a little longer. Kane enters the room and says that Commander El Raza delivered the report on the loot. The butler asks if he is looking for something specific, and the man says yes. In the game, equipment was essential because it increased growth efficiency. He is looking for a hidden piece that he only found on his 40th attempt in the game. No one would imagine that an item like this would be hidden at the beginning of the journey. The teacher tells Kane to get the item and give the rest to the captain of the guard. The butler looks at the list and is a little confused by what is marked on the paper. He asks if the item is marked correctly, and the man confirms the information. On the paper, we see marked an unidentified broken sword with a missing gem. Meanwhile, the little queen has fun with the jewels and is impressed by their shine. She then sees the gold bars and is even more impressed with all the treasure. The tutor finds what he was looking for, and the commander next to him doesn't understand the excitement. In the warehouse, they find various items, and the commander says the collection was a success. The little queen arrives and gives a clumsy military salute to her soldiers. The commander shows the item the tutor requested and prepares for the next step. 2 guards bring the box, and the man confirms it's the right item and congratulates them. The sword is called Blood Tears, and its name comes from the mana-infused stone. It has the highest attack power and also teaches a special spell to the user. The man says it's a gift for the girl, but she finds it strange that it's broken. He says he will fix it, and the student asks what happens when the sword is fixed. The tutor says it will shine, and the girl gets very excited about the possibility. The commander suggests calling blacksmiths, but the man says that's not the way. He then decides they will go to the armory and asks the soldiers to bring the items. The girl has fun with the jewels, and the tutor notices how much she likes shiny things. A glint in the teacher's eyes indicates that he already has a plan for the next step. He asks if anything caught her attention, and the girl gets a little embarrassed. The tutor comforts her and says that everything there is hers, and she can take whatever she wants. The little lord then chooses a crown, and he invites her to go to a place with him. They arrive at an abandoned mine, and the student asks why they are in that place. The man explains that the pieces to fix the sword are hidden in that mine. The girl thinks it will be difficult, but the tutor assures her he will find everything quickly. With a sparkle in his eyes, he prepares to look for the missing pieces for the sword. He approaches a rock wall and starts searching for the hidden item. After a few seconds, he finds what he was looking for and pulls it out of the wall. The student asks if that is a real sword, and he replies that it's not yet. With the piece in hand, the man prepares for the next step and says it's not over yet. A red energy surrounds his body, and he says that now only the most important part is left. He extends his hand, and a strong light illuminates the entire place where they are now. The scene then takes us in front of a large stone door with a statue. The teacher warns that there is still a gate they need to pass through to continue. He picks up the girl and says he will carry her because the path might be dangerous. Suddenly, the gargoyle statue's eyes glow, and it detects the intruders. The stone creature then rises and warns that they cannot pass through there. The tutor explains that gargoyles are a rare race, and the girl is impressed with the statue. The creature gets annoyed, but the teacher tells it to shut up, leaving it shocked by his attitude. With a serious look, the man tells the creature not to interrupt his student's lesson. Suddenly, a huge dark creature appears behind him and scares the stone guardian. The gargoyle surrenders and promises to serve him, but the tutor realizes it could be useful. He tells it to wait, and the creature agrees as he enters the treasure room. The scene shows the red gem shining brightly on its stone pedestal. With the girl in his arms, the teacher approaches the item and prepares for the ritual. He then shows the broken sword and prepares to join all the pieces. With a gesture, he unites the two parts of the blade and the missing gem in the hilt. A strong light illuminates the place, and the girl watches everything with great and curious attention. The sword rises into the air and shines brightly, and he asks what she thinks. The teacher says it's a gift, and the little lord is very happy with the new weapon. She thanks the tutor and holds the sword with pride and a big smile on her face. The screen shows the sword's attributes with status, boosting effects, and a special aura. Back at the castle, the girl shows the sword to Kane, and the tutor says she will train. The butler is shocked to see the gargoyle, and the man suggests the name Argol for it. Kane thinks it's too big, but the teacher says it will guard another place. The man then reveals that it will guard the portal against humans and their invasions. The butler understands the plan and agrees that the creature is perfect for this task. He warns that if it's useless, it will be discarded, and the gargoyle accepts the challenge. With a smirk, the tutor calls Kane to his office for a chat. Kane informs him that Dantalion and Decorabia have made contact to form an alliance. The butler warns that if the two floors unite, it will be difficult for them to handle. The teacher agrees but says he can't stand still and that there is only one option. He reveals that he will shake Dantalion's faction, but Kane reminds him of his power. The tutor reminds him that Dantalion's faction is famous for its many merchants. He explains that if he can destroy their trust, the faction will collapse. Kane questions how he would do that overnight, and the man smiles slyly. The teacher then reveals that he never said he would do it overnight. He explains that he will ruin their trade policies bit by bit and become a competitor. The butler is confused, but the man says they will do business on the 70th floor. Kane asks if he will use Seere again, and the tutor corrects him, saying it's cooperation. The butler doubts she will accept, but the teacher guarantees the offer will be tempting. With a confident smile, he says he has a product that will drive the merchants crazy. The man then reveals he will sell something that the demon realm does not yet possess. In a human city, a rumor about the Guardian's disappearance spreads very quickly. In the tavern, an adventurer confirms the rumor, and others get excited about the good news. Two men see a chance to get rich and decide to invade the demon realm. A girl gets excited and says she knows where the Ram tribe gathers, and that it will be easy. The group then prepares and heads toward the portal to the demon realm. In front of the portal, several other adventurers also prepare for the invasion. A man approaches the group and asks if he can join them in the hunt. He introduces himself as Riku and his partner Melissa, a calm-looking nun. The group's leader recognizes the insignias and sees they are A-rank adventurers. The two agree to join, and the group of adventurers sets off for the portal. A man tries to warn that no one who has entered the demon realm has returned recently. The group advances through the forest, and one of them comments on the Guardian's disappearance. Riku asks if they abandoned the floor, and the other is surprised by the term. Suddenly, they spot a member of the Ram tribe and hide to avoid being seen. One of the adventurers suggests starting the hunt, but But Riku makes an unexpected proposal. He proposes to keep the horns and the rest of the group to keep the rest. But the leader doesn't like it. The nun then touches one of their shoulders and says he still has a future ahead of him. Riku asks if he wants to go home in one piece and threatens him with his glowing axe. The group's leader realizes he was tricked and that there's no way to beat the A-ranked duo. He accepts the deal, but Riku says he never needed their help to fight. Suddenly, a strong light hits the three adventurers, and they fall to the ground unconscious. An earth tremor begins, and the group's leader wonders what is happening there. Riku gets annoyed because with all that noise, the creatures will flee before the attack. A gargoyle emerges from the shadows and says it found the last rat that needed to be caught. Riku is in shock seeing the creature and can't believe what his eyes are seeing. The creature advances and attacks the group, and one of them says to forget Riku and run. Suddenly, the girl in the group stops running, and her friend worries about her. With empty eyes, she mutters the word "guardians" and seems to be in a trance. One of the guardians approaches and asks Commander Lin for her orders. With a serious and determined look, the commander says there is only one command to be given. The scene shows the guardians surrounding the adventurers with the order to capture them alive. In a cage, one of the adventurers is shocked to see the demons capturing the humans. The commander reports that they have captured 276 humans in the last month. She is impressed with the strategy, but the tutor says it was only possible thanks to Argyle. The man then thinks that for a perfect ending, he will do whatever it takes to win. The commander warns that the residents are scared because of the captured humans. He realizes he needs more humans and decides it's time to change the plan. With a smirk, he asks if she knows anyone capable of adjusting. The commander replies that there are many who can manipulate the minds of humans. With a wicked smile, the tutor reveals that he will make them want to come here. In the city's guild, adventurers complain about the master's orders and the prohibition. One of them comments that the adventurer in a hurry is a AA rank and needs money. Suddenly, the guild door bursts open, and someone enters asking for help. Luke, one of the adventurers who left, enters injured and shocks everyone in the guild. He reveals he escaped from the demon realm, and that all the missing people are there. Desperate, he asks for help to save his friends who are left behind in the battle. The guild master approaches and asks if he knows why the demons are capturing humans. The young man says he doesn't know, and that he didn't have time to investigate the reason for the attack. The master then questions him and admits he has his doubts about his story. He wonders how a C-rank adventurer managed to escape from the demon realm. The guild master says his heartbeat is that of a liar and glares at him. Suddenly, the young man's heart calms down, and the master realizes something is wrong. He smells a strange scent and realizes the young man was mentally manipulated by the demons. With a wicked smile, the young man praises the master's perception and prepares to attack. With a swift move, the guild master defeats the adventurer with a single blow. He then orders to warn the other guilds not to enter the demon realm. The master announces that the portal will be closed, but a guard interrupts him with news. The man asks the reason for the confusion, and the guard seems very frightened by something. He reveals that guilds from other regions are preparing for an invasion. At the fortress of the Northern Alliance, they prepare to invade and fight against the demons. In the Bismarck Empire, they also prepare and say they won't be left behind. Over in the Holy Kingdom of Felix, a paladin shouts that the celestial god is with them in battle. Days earlier, the commander reports that the manipulated humans are ready for the plan, but he warns her to send them to the city of Soderlast because there's a really annoying human there. In the game, there are tough enemies, and one of them is the guild master of Soder, Adelberg. Back in the present, an army of humans invades the portal, and one of the soldiers is shocked. She thinks that the more she sees her lord, the more incredible he seems, and turns to her soldier. The vice captain then orders everyone to capture as many humans as possible with the magic net cannons. The commander gives Argyle the order to begin, and the creature agrees with a dark glow. From the shadows emerges Argyle, the gargoyle who now guards the portal with a very menacing look. The invaders scream in fear upon seeing the stone creature and can't believe their eyes. The creature says that by its master's will, it will eliminate all the intruders present. Seeing the enemy's formation break, the commander says that now is the time to attack. The vice captain then points and shouts for everyone to load their weapons for the attack. With a battle cry, he orders them to fire, and several magic nets are launched into the air. The adventurers are caught by surprise, and one of them yells to tear the magic net. One of the invaders curses the demons and angrily tries to cut the web with his sword. With a quick and strong movement, he manages to cut the magic web and free himself from the trap. Another soldier is impressed to see him break free and shouts the name of his lord, Rosenbach. He then shouts for his men to follow him, as he will clear a path for their escape. The subordinate realizes that Argyle alone won't be enough to hold back all the invaders. He then tells the captain to leave it to him and prepares to enter the battle as well. A purple aura surrounds him, and he says he won't be defeated again without even transforming. With a swift move, he launches a powerful attack that opens a crater in the ground. Lord Rosenbach is startled by the power of the attack and is in shock at the scene. In the blink of an eye, the Azura warrior advances and defeats one of the human soldiers. With a smirk, he calls the humans pests and complains about them ruining the flow. He then faces the other adventurers with a look of superiority and great anger. The survivors panic and start running for their lives. He orders his soldiers to play with the fugitives for a bit and then capture them. Back at the castle, the tutor praises their work and the result of the successful operation. He thanks Captain Epsilon and Vice Captain Zeta for their good work on the mission. The master then says he expects great things from them in the future, and the two thank him. With the mission successfully completed, the tutor then opens his office door. He finds Seere and Kane and asks if the girl waited long for his return to the castle. He then orders Kane to leak information to the Demon Kingdom's merchants soon. The butler is shocked by the order and asks why they should send the humans back now. The tutor says they need get as much as they can from them, but the butler disagrees with the plan. He explains that there are several human nations they must be careful with. Next, he talks about the Bismarck Empire, the only one to declare itself a true empire. And lastly, he mentions the Northern Alliance, formed by 7 northern castles. The man agrees that they're a nuisance, but says that avoiding negotiations is the wrong choice. The little lord wonders why, and the tutor explains that it's the humans' fault. According to him, every nation has a responsibility to protect its citizens, and that's a fact. The girl asks if that's really so important, and her tutor confirms with a smile. The butler understands the plan and says he will select 200 high-value prisoners. The girl asks what he's going to do, and the man replies that it's a new human product. In the Bismarck Empire, Emperor Cloud is furious upon receiving the letter from the demons. His advisors speculate that something has changed in the Demon Kingdom and become worried. The Emperor then asks about the ransom amount demanded by the kidnappers. One of the nobles says they are underestimating them and should be punished for their audacity. The Emperor then asks for an explanation, and the Marquis says it's the Adventurers Guild's fault. A noble gets angry and questions if the reason matters when the opponent is a demon. The Marquis then replies that this is exactly the problem, as they don't know their strength. He then reveals that many of the captured adventurers were A-class or higher. Angrily, the noble shouts that he cannot accept the Empire bowing to the Demon Kingdom. The Marquis warns about the rumors, and the Emperor gives in and accepts the exchange with the demons. With his eyes gleaming, the noble swears he will pay for this humiliation one day. At the castle, Kane reports that the negotiations have been accepted, and the tutor feels relieved. He then orders the prisoners to be taken to the portal the next day for the exchange. With a dark look, he warns that if they don't accept by the end of the week, the rest will be eliminated. Elsewhere, some artisans wonder why the Demon Kings summoned them there. Suddenly, someone announces their arrival, and we see the trio's feet approaching the location. The artisans are shocked to see Seere and Citri together with the little lord's master. Citri welcomes them and says they must be curious about the reason for the meeting. With a gesture, one of the guards begins to open a large bag that was on the floor. She then reveals several human weapons and tells everyone to look at the platform. The blacksmiths are impressed with the quality and say that it is a masterpiece. One of them then realizes they are all swords stolen from the human adventurers. Seere says that it ruined her eyes, and that she gathered them to analyze and replicate the weapons. One of the blacksmiths is shocked and asks if they should copy humans for being inferior. The tutor then tells them to stop wasting time and resources on bad weapons. The artisan is offended by his words and questions him for speaking so recklessly. With a smirk, the man says he's going to ask a question and holds up a sword. He then shows them the human's sword and prepares for the durability test. Then he asks which of the two swords they think will break on impact. The artisans are speechless and don't know what to answer the Lord's tutor. He explains that he doesn't want them to imitate, but to analyze and recreate in their own way. One of the blacksmiths named Dungrik offers to try, and the others are surprised. He warns that it will take time, and the tutor assures him that he will invest all the necessary time. The man suggests he be the leader, and Seere and Seere agree with his idea. The tutor then appoints Dungrik as the project leader and gives him an emblem of authority. One of the blacksmiths protests, but the tutor tells him to shut up with a serious look. He says that a leader is one who takes the first step and assumes responsibility. Scared, the artisans deny it and say that wasn't their intention when they protested. The man warns that disobeying Dungrik is the same as disobeying the two sovereigns. With a dark look, he warns that if that happens, they will be eliminated on the spot. The blacksmiths are terrified by the threat, and cold sweat drips down their faces. They bow and swear to obey the command of the Great Ones and follow their lord's orders. Back in the room, Seere asks if she did a good job, and the tutor praises her immediately. He then teases Seere and praises her, even though she isn't a child desperate for it. He then changes the subject and proposes, discussing their little business venture. In exchange, he offers her high-quality armaments and a share of the profits. She then asks for 50% of the profits, and the tutor calls her a scammer to her face. She gets annoyed but quickly lowers her offer to 10%, afraid of losing the deal. He then says she's shameless and that for 10%, she can forget about the weapons. The girl explains that the operation is his, and that the quality of the weapons will be on another level. Seere agrees to lower her share, and he proposes 5%, guaranteeing a good return. She doubts he knows that, and he pretends to be offended by her lack of trust. She accepts the contract, but doubts they can replicate the weapons of the captured humans. He explains that for a demon king, standard weapons don't matter, hence the delay. But a demon king can't do everything alone, which is why the army needs weapons. With the research data, he guarantees they will reach the human level soon. She gets annoyed and says it's not for free, but he reminds her she won't lift a finger. The man reveals that she will take on all the risk, and that her reputation is at stake. She panics and wonders what this risk is and what he's planning to do. With a smirk, the tutor says that nothing in this world is free, Your Majesty Seere. In a dark dungeon, we see several captured adventurers locked in a cell. A girl named Ari asks what happened to Luke, and Dane tries to calm her down. Suddenly, one of the guards grabs a prisoner by force and drags him out of the cell. The prisoner screams to be released and struggles, trying to break free from the guard's grip. Dane and Ari are taken outside, and the young man asks where they are going now. The tutor stops them and asks for their names, and they introduce themselves as Ari and Dane. With a serious look, the man asks if they happen to know someone named Luke. The two get angry and shout that it's a joke, and that the demons were the ones who took him. With a smirk, the tutor confirms that Luke operated in the city of Soder. He then asks Kane to bring a pen and paper, and the butler is very confused. The man draws a portrait and asks if the two prisoners recognize the person. They are shocked to see the drawing and shout Luke's name, asking how he knows. The tutor then asks Kane if this man was in the operation, and he confirms it. With a malicious smile, he thinks that an incredible stroke of luck has just fallen into his lap. He then orders the two to be taken to his office and goes up the stairs. He thinks that he needs to be careful with humans, as 3 heroes can appear in the game, and he knows very well who one of them is, and the scene shows us Luke, the hero of the sword. He then realizes that Adelberg wouldn't leave a mind-controlled human alone. Kane announces the prisoner's arrival, and the tutor prepares for his next step. He thinks about Dane and Aries' potential in the game, and that it would be a waste to sell them. The man then faces them, and tells the two of them to work for him from now on. Kane is shocked and says he can't put them under Seere's command, because they are human. The tutor reassures him and says he knows what he's doing, and there's nothing to worry about. He then makes the proposal, saying he will spare their lives and compensate them for their skills. Dean asks what happens if they are locked back up, and the tutor reveals their fate. With a cold, emotionless look, the man reveals that their friend has already been eliminated. The girl is in shock at the news and can't believe what she just heard. Aerie becomes enraged and Kane holds her back, but the tutor says they weren't the ones who did it. He reveals that the Soder Guild master was responsible, and that it's up to them whether to believe it. The two are shocked by the revelation, and the tutor tells them to make their choice now. Dane questions if he can trust a demon, but Aerie seems to consider the proposal. With a determined look, the girl says she will accept the offer and work for him. Dane gets angry and asks if she's gone crazy, but Aerie reminds him of the promise of payment. She recalls the treatment they received from humans, and how they were despised and ignored. With tears in her eyes, she shouts that she doesn't want to be a slave, and will fight for her life. With a determined look, she says she'll make a deal with the devil if she has to. Dane grinds his teeth in anger, but seems to have no other choice but to agree. He accepts the proposal and asks what they need to do to fulfill the agreement. The tutor says they are useless now and need to train to become strong. He then gives them 3 years to prove their worth and threatens them with a smirk. The scene changes, and the tutor announces that today is swordsmanship class day, and Seere gets excited. He thinks about teaching the girl the basics and calls her over to start the day's lesson. The man says she needs to hold the sword with both hands, but she looks worried. He thinks that the teddy bear is an heirloom and that perhaps the lesson is too difficult for her. He realizes that she trusts him and is willing to put the bear aside for a while. The girl says she'll be right back and asks her teddy bear to wait just a little while in the corner. The tutor then starts the class, showing the basic stance and how to hold the sword. He demonstrates the movement, and the girl imitates him and asks if she's doing it right. The man is impressed with her skill and realizes she was born to be a lord. He says that today they will focus on swinging the sword and that she needs to watch closely. With a quick and precise movement, he shows how to make the perfect cut with the sword. The girl is mesmerized by the demonstration, and the tutor says it's her turn now. She then gets into position and prepares to imitate the movement her teacher made. A red aura surrounds her body, and she prepares for the attack with great force. With a single blow, the girl creates a huge crater in the ground, shocking her tutor. The man's jaw drops, and he can't believe the power his student possesses. He is surprised by the sword's power and sees that it increases all stats by 500%. The girl asks if she did it right, and the tutor praises her, stuttering from the shock. He then suggests ending the class for today and says they will use wooden swords next time. The girl then changes the subject and seems to have something important to tell him. She reveals that she saw humans entering the castle and that a woman was among them. He explains that they are not his disciples, but are studying on their own. The girl accuses him of lying and remembers that he also teaches Seere how to fight with a sword. With her eyes sparkling, she asks if he will always be her teacher and only hers. He smiles and assures her that she is his only disciple and that he will always be by her side. The little lord is happy with his answer, and suddenly Kane arrives to speak with him. The butler whispers that Seere's birthday is coming up, and the tutor is surprised. Back in the room, the man sighs and says he has a concern, and Seere appears. She gets annoyed and asks if he had to say that now, and the tutor looks at her, confused. He ignores her comment, and Seere stands up and offers to help with the problem. She asks if it's about Seere and if they had a fight, but he denies the accusation immediately. Seere sees a chance to hire him, and the man reveals that her birthday is coming up. She laughs and tells him to stop with the useless thoughts, because she won't leave the 72nd floor. Seere then lists the things Seere likes, and the tutor thinks it's all too simple. He explains that to reach the end of the game, favorability is as important as growth. He remembers the crown the girl picked up, and thinks that shiny things are the best. Seere suggests he make the crown fit her, and the man agrees it's a good idea. He then ignores the girl and thinks about how to get the crown without anyone noticing. The scene changes, and the tutor prepares to put his birthday plan into action. He and Cecily walk down the hallway, and the maid asks if Seere really went for a snack. She confirms that the girl is eating pudding and that she volunteered for the operation. The man then opens the door to Seere's room and prepares to take the crown. Suddenly, the girl appears and shouts his name, and the tutor is startled by the surprise. He asks how she knew, and the girl explains that she can feel her teacher's mana. The maid is startled and thinks that he was almost discovered because of her failure. Seere asks the reason for his visit, and the tutor makes up an excuse to go for a walk. He asks the maid to keep watch, and she agrees with a confident smile on her face. Outside, Seere is enchanted by the full moon and says that it's very beautiful. The tutor watches her and thinks it was a good idea to fix the crown for her gift. He then asks the girl to take care of herself and not get sick like the last time they saw each other. The girl says she likes him and his classes, and that nothing is difficult for her now. She asks him to teach her more, and the tutor agrees but reminds her of the importance of rest. With a pure smile, she agrees, and he hopes she never loses that heart. He watches her with affection, and a feeling of protectiveness grows inside his heart. Suddenly, a quest completion notification appears, and the tutor invites her to go back. The tutor goes to the workshop and finds Dungrik, who bows and greets him. He shows him the crown and asks him to reduce its size without changing the original design. The blacksmith accepts the job, and the tutor asks for it to be done in a week as a secret. The man then asks about the research, and the artisan reveals that he already has a prototype. The tutor encourages him and says he will eagerly await the result of his work. With the gift ready, he thinks that now all that's left is to prepare the birthday party. Suddenly, he hears a cry and sees Seere on the floor with two maids beside her. One of them offers pudding, but the girl shouts no and refuses the dessert immediately. The tutor and the maid are shocked to see the scene and don't understand what happened. The other maid is also stunned and can't believe she refused the pudding. With tears in her eyes, the girl calls for her teacher in a crying voice. Suddenly, the tutor appears, and the girl runs to hug him very tightly. He comforts her and asks why she is crying and what happened to her. The maids explain that she was looking for him and thought he had left forever. The man apologizes for leaving without saying goodbye and invites her to come inside and talk for a bit. He calms her down and asks what worried her so much that it made her cry like that. With her eyes full of tears, she reveals she was afraid her teacher would leave. He reassures her and promises to take care of her until she grows up and becomes a queen. The girl then asks fearfully if he will leave her when she ascends to the throne. The tutor thinks that he can't reveal his true goal of returning to his world. He lies and says he will stay by her side forever, and the girl calms down a little. He invites her to eat some pudding, and she accepts, but a dark voice warns her about the lie. She realizes he will leave when he achieves his goal, and that she can't let that happen. With a determined look, she decides she will do her best so that he never abandons her. With a gleam in her eyes, she swears she will never let him go and that he is hers forever. A week later, on Seere's birthday, everyone gathers to celebrate the occasion. The little lord thanks everyone, and the soldiers comment on her cuteness and grace. The vice captain then hands her a gift and says that he and the commander prepared it. She is delighted with the gift and thanks him with a radiant smile on her face. Suddenly, Seere and another man arrive, and the tutor wonders about her gift. She smiles and has the gift brought in, and an intense light illuminates the entire hall. A golden statue of Seere appears, and the tutor is speechless at the extravagance. Seere explains that a demon king needs to show her dignity, and the gift is for that purpose. The man compliments her, and she gets annoyed and asks if that was really a compliment. The girl thanks Seere and says she loved the gift, and the lord is satisfied. Seere then turns to her tutor and says she now wants to see his gift. He calls for Dungrik, who brings the gift, and the tutor says she will like it very much. Kane is shocked to see the girl hand him her bear and can't believe the scene. The girl asks if she can open it, and the tutor agrees with a gentle smile on his face. With her eyes shining with joy, she opens the box and is enchanted by what she sees. The crown, now adjusted to her size, shines with a royal and majestic splendor. The tutor congratulates her, and she thanks him with a radiant smile and a heart full of joy. In a shop, a man is shocked by the quality of the goods and asks where they came from. The shop owner is surprised by the quality of the sword and didn't expect so much. Another merchant offers double the price, but the exclusivity contract prevents it. The man is shocked to learn about the monopoly, and the shop owner warns him to be prepared. Elsewhere, a man asks how things are going, and his subordinate says there are no problems. He questions whether that is right, but his master assures him they will love the idea. Back at the castle, the tutor receives a letter from Bennett and is interested in the auction idea. Kane says he's using his head, but the tutor thinks it's boring to go just as a spectator. With a smirk, he decides to take his 2 new subordinates to the event. Days later, at Bennett's shop, Seere is impressed by the size of the place and its beauty. The girl is enchanted by the shiny things, and the 2 humans wonder about her. Bennett welcomes them, and the tutor asks to see the magic tools he has in the shop. As they go up the stairs, the shop owner approaches and calls the tutor over to talk. He asks about the humans, but the man says it's none of his business and ignores him. The tutor enters a room and prepares to show the tools to his new apprentices. The room is filled with high-quality magical weapons and armor that glow intensely. The 2 are shocked by the level of the items and can't believe what their eyes are seeing. The man says they can choose 1 item, and the 2 get excited about the unexpected offer. Eri then shows a ring and asks if she can have it as a gift from her new master. The tutor explains that it's an artifact for storing mana and that it's safe for humans. Seere gets jealous and wonders if she did something wrong for her teacher to ignore her. The man then invites her to choose an item too, and she accepts with a smile. She chooses a shiny necklace and says she wants it because it's the most beautiful of all. The tutor sees that it has a protection spell and thinks it's a great choice for her. He then orders the payment to be made by the 72nd floor and for them to choose 1 more item. He then asks how much time they have left, and the shop owner assures them they will arrive on time. The man then calls them to go, and the 2 humans are surprised by his attitude. At the auction, the auctioneer announces the next item and prepares for the opening bid. He then announces the humans as prisoners and the opening bid of 5 gold coins. Eri is shocked, and Dane realizes that this is a warning for them not to rebel against him. The tutor thinks that Bennett used his head by using an auction to solve the problem. Seere asks why they are selling the humans, and the tutor looks at her attentively. He explains that he needs subordinates, and that he trusts humans for this task. With an innocent smile, the girl says she trusts him and will believe his words. The man then turns to Dane and Eri and asks if they regret their choice. The 2 remain silent and just watch the auction with a mix of fear and relief. The auctioneer bangs the gavel and sells the prisoner, and Dane thinks that could have been him. He then says it was the best decision of his life, and Eri silently agrees with him. 5 years pass, and we see a hand extended amidst an intense and magical glow. Seere's hair floats as she trains her mana control with great dedication. The tutor praises her and says she has improved a lot at storing mana in recent years. Now older, the girl greets him with a smile, and he watches her with pride in his eyes. He suggests changing the classroom for today, and she gets excited about the idea of going somewhere else. He says it's an important lesson, and the girl agrees, even with a bit of laziness. The tutor then asks if she knows what day it is, and she says no. Curiously, he reveals that it's the end of the exclusivity contract, and the girl is surprised by the news. She says they have enough distribution channels and don't need them anymore. The man explains that giving them hope of negotiation will secure better terms for them. He praises her for her good judgment and says he will give advantages to existing partners. She then changes the subject and comments on the uproar in the human kingdom currently. The Northern War between the Alliance and the Empire allows players to get stronger. The tutor remembers his initial plan and asks if the girl remembers what he said. She then recalls that his goal was to destroy Dantalion's credit in the market. With a smirk, He says that now is the time to act with full force. In a room, the trio meets with the merchants and announces they will not renew the contract. In return, he makes a new proposal and shows a bag with a mysterious glow. He then shows the contents to the merchants, who are shocked by what they see. He explains that in exchange for the rumors, they will provide more prisoners and captives. The merchant doubts the information, and the tutor glares at him with a threatening look. He realizes that spreading the rumor will make Dantalion an enemy, but the other option is worse. Seere worries, but the tutor says if they refuse, he will find other partners. The merchant knows that business with him is vital, and that he cannot refuse the offer. He and his partners accept the proposal, and Seere questions the truthfulness of the information. She says that Dantalion is not careless, and the tutor gets annoyed with her distrust. Seere defends herself and says she won't go to the 72nd floor because of that girl. With a dark look, the girl glares at her, and Seere gives in and asks what she should do. The tutor tells her to continue as usual, and that the rest will resolve itself. In the castle on the 69th floor, one of the lords receives shocking news. He reads about suspicions of fabricated sales in Dantalion's arms business. Angrily, he shouts and wonders who in the world dug up this secret information. The arms business was one of his main ventures, and now it has been hit. With unsold weapons, he forged the books to make it seem like everything had been sold. He believed that maintaining his network of contacts would be more profitable in the long run. His advisors inform him that they will soon find the source, and he worries about something else. One of them reveals that the forges are demanding what he owes, and the situation worsens. Dantalion despairs and wonders where he will get the money to pay the debts. An advisor suggests selling the stock to pay the forges, but the loss would be enormous. Another reminds him of what happened to Andromalius, and that Seere will attack if he shows any weakness. With few options, he decides to contact Decorabia to ask for financial help. The tutor watches everything from afar and is amused by his enemy's struggle to survive. In Nain's new office, he and Seere discuss Dantalion's current situation. He explains that Decorabia will squeeze every last coin out of him to help him stay afloat. The girl asks how he knew about the stockpiles, and he reveals it was thanks to Dane. He praises the humans, and Seere gets annoyed with the attention he's giving them now. She denies being jealous and says it's because he's paying too much attention to them lately. The tutor calms her down and says she will always be his student and the only one who matters to him. He then asks for her opinion on the situation, and she says it's the perfect bait. With a smile, he agrees and asks her to call the commander for a new mission. In the throne room, Seere summons Commander El Raza for an important audience. The commander reports that Dantalion asked Decorabia for help and that a delegation will be sent. The tutor then faces her and says that's why she needs to take care of them now. He hands her a sword and says she will use this weapon on the mission. She realizes the sword is not theirs and that it was forged on the 69th floor. With a determined look, she understands the plan and prepares for another of his schemes. She promises to complete the mission for Her Majesty, who is now a true ruler. Back in the room, Seere asks if she did a good job, and the tutor praises her greatly. He then asks what kind of doll she wants as a reward for her good work. With a serious and determined look, the girl says she doesn't want a doll this time. She turns and leaves, and the tutor wonders if this is her rebellious phase. At the portal between the floors, the commander warns that their identities cannot be exposed. The commander explains that the delegation has 15 members, and each will handle 2 targets. But a soldier says the mission will be complicated if they have to face the knights. The leader then says she will deal with them, and guarantees the attack won't be traced. Then she orders everyone to get ready, and they quickly spread out across the area. One of them moves with impressive speed, leaving a trail of dust on the ground. A short time later, a purple portal opens in the forest, attracting the group's attention. Decorabia's delegation emerges from the portal, and the commander notices there are no knights. With that, she leaps and prepares to launch the surprise attack against the targets. In the blink of an eye, a slash of red energy advances towards the enemies. She then shouts to her soldiers and orders them all to attack with full force. The mages are caught by surprise and wonder where the opponents came from. After the battle, the commander says that should be enough and that they will return. In his castle, Dantalion is shocked to learn that the delegation has been annihilated. His advisor confirms the news and says they must inform Decarabii immediately. Dantalion denies involvement but despairs upon learning that one of his swords was found. The advisor explains that Decarabii will use this as leverage to pressure them even more. At this, Dantalion realizes that everything has Seere's mark on it and that it was a well-crafted setup. Angrily, he decides to send a letter to Decarabii and prepare for war. At that moment, a soldier enters and announces that Decarabii's army has already crossed the portal. His advisors realize the timing was perfect and that Decarabii may have orchestrated everything. Dantalion understands that he wants to eliminate them and orders all his forces to mobilize. Back at the castle, a general reports that the 68th floor has invaded the 69th. The tutor asks Seere for permission to handle this, and she agrees with a smile on her face. The girl asks what he means by the fisherman's gain, and he explains it simply. He then orders the commander to prepare for battle when the two floors clash. The plan is not a direct confrontation, but a tactic to get Decarabii's attention. The commander accepts the mission, and Seere encourages him, saying she's counting on his help. The tutor then asks another commander to evacuate the merchants to the 70th floor. He explains that the merchants seek out the 69th floor for its safety and good treatment. But now that Dantalion has deceived them and the war has begun, the place is no longer safe. With a smile, he says it's the perfect chance to destroy the trust in Dantalion. Seere asks about Seere's approval, but the tutor assures her that he won't mind. She then understands that if everything goes well, Dantalion will fall on his own without much effort. The two commanders bow and leave the throne room to begin preparations. The tutor notices that Seere is thoughtful, and she says she suddenly had a great idea. She suggests they take down the 69th floor themselves, but he thinks it's risky. The girl insists she can do it, and that she has trained a lot and learned magic from him. He denies the request and says it's not yet her time to go to the battlefield. She gets annoyed and asks how much longer she'll have to wait to finally fight. The man thinks she's right, and that no demon lord could beat her now, but he's worried about her safety because she's still a child and could get hurt. He asks her to be patient and promises she will lead when the 70th floor is conquered. In return, he offers her a wish, and the girl gets excited about the unexpected proposal. With a smile, she asks to go somewhere with him and says that any place will do. He realizes they've never gone out just for fun and agrees to her request. That night, the girl is in her bed and can't sleep from so much excitement. She hugs her teddy bear and thinks about how precious her teacher is to her. Then she realizes that for the war to end quickly, she needs to act on her own. With a determined look, she decides she will try harder, even if it means being disobedient. Seere then goes to the commander and asks to be taken into battle with them. The girl says that, as a ruler, she has the right to lead her troops in combat. The commander thinks about how Her Majesty has improved and learned ancient magic from the master. She recognizes her value in battle but still denies the young queen's request. Seere gets angry and asks whom she truly serves if not her own queen. With a serious look, she says her orders come first and faces the commander. Rin gives in and says her command takes precedence, and Seere invites her to join her. The commander asks her not to overdo it, and the girl says she got the message. With a worried look, she reminds the girl of her promise to take care of herself in battle. Seere smiles and tells her teacher to wait, as she will resolve everything and come back to him. On the battlefield, Dantalion's troops prepare and receive orders to stop the enemy. With that, the archers on top of the castle fire a shower of arrows at their opponents. The enemy soldiers are hit and fall one by one, trying to advance in the open field. Then, a purple magic weapon begins to charge with powerful and unstable energy. Soon after, several of these weapons fire concentrated energy beams at the enemies below. A gigantic explosion sweeps across the battlefield, throwing soldiers in all directions. The force of the attack was so great that one of the enemy's protections broke in half. One of the surviving soldiers is terrified and can't believe what happened. Another warrior watches in shock at the destroyed barrier and his eliminated comrades. Two soldiers with a shield say they can't advance because the attack is too intense. At that moment, they receive the order to retreat as another energy beam approaches. But a warrior in golden armor appears and moves with incredible speed. With a focused look, he prepares to intercept the two beams coming his way. He then uses his sword to deflect the magic attack with impressive ease. He turns to the soldiers and tells them not to be afraid, because the first star is here. The warrior introduces himself as Balthazar of Decarabia's pentagram, ready for the fight. Dantalion's advisor despairs upon seeing the reinforcement and says their chances are low. A mysterious voice calls the soldiers useless and says they are just mercenaries. Suddenly, a green magic circle appears and a dark energy begins to form. A hellfire spell is cast, and a wave of green fire advances rapidly. Balthazar turns and is surprised by the power of the magic approaching him. He is completely engulfed by the flames, and the soldiers scream his name in despair. The advisor is impressed and is told by his master to prepare the next attack. Taking advantage of the opening, the enemy soldiers begin to break down the castle gates. An enemy commander orders everyone to advance with everything now that their leader has fallen. The advisor smiles because the battle has turned in his favor now that the strong enemy is defeated. However, Balthazar's sword flies through the air at high speed towards the commander. The commander is caught by surprise and pierced through the chest by the swift, golden sword. He falls to the ground lifeless, and the advancing soldiers are shocked by the scene. Soon after, Balthazar appears and says the fire attack was hot but nothing special. He is standing without a scratch and says his opponent's magic was no big deal. With his sword in hand, he calls Dantalion ridiculous for trying to face them. He then asks if the Lord thought he could match Decarabia with this much strength. The advisor gets angry and says the warrior only survived because of his armor. Balthazar replies that the armor is a gift and that it's their weakness that's to blame. With a serious look, he says that since they have nothing left, it's time to end this. Just then, an explosion occurs right on the ground where the golden, armored warrior was standing, but he manages to dodge at the last second and jumps away from the magic's impact. Someone laments that he dodged, and Balthazar lands and asks who is speaking to him. Seere then appears with a smile and confirms that it's her, surprising everyone. The advisor wonders why she is there and is suspicious of her intentions to help. The girl approaches Balthazar, and he says he is honored that she knows his name. She says he's in the way and she'll take care of him, but the warrior calls her cheeky. He then prepares to attack, as this will please his lord, and he will conquer the floor. But the girl's eyes begin to glow with an intense, dark red energy. She then makes a gesture with her hands and says just one word to activate her spell. A giant flaming skull forms over Balthazar, and he is left speechless by its power. He can't believe she cast a spell of that level without any incantation. His armor begins to burn before the attack hits, and he feels the destructive power. Even so, he thinks it's ridiculous to lose to magic and charges forward with his sword. However, before he could complete his attack, Seere knocks him down with one blow. Balthazar falls to the ground unconscious, and the girl is disappointed by how easy the fight was. The advisor is shocked because he couldn't even see her movements. They were so fast. Commander Lin arrives on the battlefield and calls out for Her Majesty, worried. She asks what the queen was thinking, advancing alone, and Seere greets her. With a surprised look, the commander notices the fallen warrior and recognizes him. Another soldier is impressed with the feat, and the commander tells him to be quiet and warns the queen. The girl asks why and says they just need to eliminate all the enemies to solve the problem. The commander explains that those are not all of them, and that the other members of the group will come. With a wicked smile, Seere suggests blaming Dantalion and pretending they came to help. The advisor watches the scene from afar and feels a frightening aura coming from the two of them. The commander questions the plan, but the girl says they can force a deal with Dantalion. She then remembers that her master taught her not to hesitate, and the commander praises her learning. With a smile, the queen asks the commander to take care of the soldiers, and she agrees to the order. Under the queen's orders, all forces prepare to annihilate the remaining enemies. Dantalion and his men see the reinforcement, and he already thinks about the reward, but the advisor doesn't. Meanwhile, Seere begins to accumulate a large amount of magical energy in her body. She then raises her hand and creates a dark, purple sphere of energy with immense power. She then launches the sphere towards the castle, while those on top watch. The attack hits the castle with full force, and a shower of purple lightning destroys everything. The advisor screams in despair and wonders why she is attacking them too. She says she protected the castle, so she has the right to do whatever she wants with it. He understands her intention and prepares to attack with his own magic, but his spell fails, and he wonders why his magic isn't working. He then realizes she has mastered Dispel magic, and she gives him a choice. She says he can join her or be destroyed with the castle, and he reflects on it. He thinks he could share the same fate, and that it's better to ally with her now. He gives in and asks her to stop, but the girl scolds him for the way he speaks. She smiles, satisfied, and suggests they draft the peace treaty immediately. In a conference room, the group gathers to finalize the details of the agreement. The commander asks if she's sure and reminds her that this is the first time she has disobeyed. Seere gets nervous and wonders if her master will be angry about her disobedience. Suddenly, the tutor enters the room with a dark look and calls her name. Everyone in the room falls silent and looks at him with a mix of fear and surprise. With an angry look, he approaches the girl who calls him master. Frightened, she tries to explain herself, but he interrupts her with a quick and unexpected gesture. The tutor hugs her tightly, with evident relief on his worried and tense face. He says she is safe, and that he is relieved to find her well and unharmed. She is surprised by his reaction and apologizes for her disobedience. Elsewhere, a man informs the tutor that the queen went to the battlefield. The master is shocked and can't believe she disobeyed him, and he goes after her. He wonders what he did wrong, but realizes that her safety is what's important. He fears she may have been injured and hurries to get to the battlefield. The tutor arrives and calls her, and the girl turns, surprised to see him there in the room. She is speechless and tries to explain herself, stuttering before his serious gaze. But he hugs her and says she is safe, leaving the girl confused and relieved. She calls him teacher and feels guilty for having worried him so much with her actions. The man then asks everyone to leave, and Dantalion's advisor complains to him. With a menacing look and red eyes, the tutor orders everyone to leave the room immediately. The advisor feels a terrifying mana and wonders where so much power is coming from. The tutor asks what happened, and she says she just wanted to be useful and help in the battle. She is proud of having conquered the floor and defeated Balthazar without making any mistakes. The man praises her, but reminds her of the responsibility that comes with the loss of a demon king. He says he didn't want to reveal her power, yet to maintain the element of surprise. The girl hands him the peace treaty and asks if he wants to take a look at the document. He reads the plan to move the base to the 69th floor and absorb the merchants. With a smile, he praises the plan, and the girl asks if he will grant her wish. He confirms they will go out together, and the girl gets excited by the unexpected news. But he says they first need to deal with Decorabia, who won't just stand by. The tutor resumes the meeting and asks about the size of Decorabia's army. The advisor is irritated by the girl's informality, and the tutor gives her a serious look. He then corrects his posture and says the army was reduced by half in the battle. The tutor wonders if there's a way to win without destroying the current infrastructure. Seere blames herself for the situation, but the tutor consoles her and tells her to learn from her mistake. He then says he will take care of the situation personally to fix this mess. In the castle on the 68th floor, Decorabia is furious with the news of the failure. He yells at his subordinates, accusing them of incompetence and of tarnishing his name. They bow and ask for one more chance to defeat Dantalion and fix their mistake. With a dark look, he agrees but demands that they bring him Seere's head as well. He warns them that if they fail again, their own heads will be on the line this time. Later, one of the subordinates admits he only said that to survive the moment. Another asks if he has a plan, but he says no and laments the loss of Balthazar. A winged woman complains about having to fight somewhere else and argues with her colleague. Another defends her and says that retreating against Rin El Raza wasn't a bad choice after all. He is surprised by the young demon queen's strength and suggests eliminating her soon. One of the generals says they still have superior numbers and can win with brute force. Another says that Seere might be their ally, but she won't risk getting into a war. They agree to attack first and prepare for battle when something happens. A soldier enters and announces that the enemy is attacking, surprising everyone. Elsewhere, the tutor and the commander are walking, and he praises her work. The commander asks if they can win without Seere's support, and he says he doesn't know. She is surprised, as he always has a plan and never acts without a good reason. He admits he used to be like that, but now the situation is more complicated. She asks why he is taking such a big risk, and he says it's to minimize losses. The tutor then orders her to stay with the soldiers, and the commander worries about him. She asks if he is going alone, and he says no, touching her shoulder to calm her. He reveals that he will take the 2 humans with him, and she is surprised by the decision. The man says he knows she doesn't trust them, and that today is the day to test them. He turns to the 2 of them and asks them to prove their worth and show their growth. He wonders if he can do this, as he only won the other one because of the surprise attack. He feels the anxiety of uncertainty and knows his body is strong but doesn't know its limits. This same anxiety made him retreat before, and he knows he won't get a second chance. One of the humans warns that there are enemies ahead, and the tutor sees the large reception. He observes the valley and sees that the enemies are scattered throughout the rocky area. With a determined look, he orders the 2 to help him, and they advance into battle. The enemy scouts report the arrival of a group beyond the valley and prepare to fight. But they realize there is only one person and wonder if they are seeing things correctly. The 2 generals agree it's a trap and decide to send scouts to investigate. One of the generals thinks they ran away, but the other says an ambush is more likely. She denies it and says she doesn't feel any mana, and that they must have fled in fear. One of the generals believes they might have avoided using magic because of Rubia's presence. Angrily, she decides to go alone and advances at high speed into the deserted valley. Her companions worry but trust her defensive magic to protect her. Rubia flies towards the tutor and complains about the wingless pests sending scouts. She gets closer and says they should have faced her group head on from the start. With a confident look, she prepares to show her opponent the terror of the harpies. The tutor then whispers a word, and a surprise attack erupts from the ground below her. A stone spike pierces her from below, and she screams in pain from the unexpected blow. She can't believe she's going out like that, and loses consciousness in mid-air. Her companions see her body falling and scream her name in despair and anger. They approach, furious, and ask who the man is that defeated her so easily. With a dark aura, the tutor says they talk too much on a battlefield. The eyes of a giant creature glow with an intense and menacing red in the darkness. Suddenly, a gigantic leviathan emerges behind the man and faces the 2 generals. The tutor smiles and orders the creature to clean up the mess for him with a simple gesture. He reflects that many factors decide a war, but there is something that changes everything. One of the creature's red eyes glows brightly and glares at the enemies with fury. The tutor knows that overwhelming force can turn the tide at any moment in battle. He then repeats the order, and the Leviathan prepares to attack with all its might. With its mouth open, the creature lunges forward and prepares to devour all the enemies. The soldiers and their horses are swallowed by the creature and scream in despair. They plead for their lives, but are dragged into the darkness with no chance of escape. The Leviathan then crushes everything in its path and lets out a roar of power and destruction. One of the surviving generals is shocked and has never seen power on that level. He approaches the tutor on his horse and faces him with a mix of fear and anger. With a smirk, the man asks what he thinks he is. With an air of mystery, from a distance, Ari and Dane watch the scene, and she asks if they need to intervene now. Dane says no, but that they need to prove their worth, and that this is their choice. He then jumps from a cliff and prepares to enter the battle and help his master. Ari casts a speed spell, and a green aura surrounds Dane to increase his power. He lands with force and advances towards the enemy mages with his dagger in hand. The mages are annoyed by the human's audacity and prepare to counterattack. They launch a wave of blue lightning in his direction, and Dane braces for impact. Eri then casts another spell, and a golden shield appears to protect her companion. The shield successfully blocks the attack, and Dane continues his advance unscathed. The enemy general sees the reinforcement and orders all his units to advance and attack. Dane kneels and prepares for a powerful attack, his dagger glowing with energy. He then charges forward with impressive speed and a determined look on his face. He defeats Lord Dahak with a single blow, and the soldiers shout his name in shock. The other general is furious with the human's audacity and prepares for combat. He transforms into a giant dragon and vows to destroy the human with his own hands. The tutor approaches with his sword and tells him to stay focused on the battlefield. With a swift and precise strike, he cuts the dragon in half and defeats it easily. He then turns to Eri and tells her not to lose focus, as Decorabia will be coming soon. The girl is surprised and happy that her spell worked so well in the battle. Suddenly, Seere appears and asks Eri where her teacher is, curiously. Eri points to the Leviathan, and Seere realizes that this is her master's work. She is impressed with his power, and Eri says that one day she will be strong too. Eri asks if the master knows she is there, and Seere says she came in secret. The queen then asks if she has strange feelings for her teacher, and Eri apologizes. Eri is confused and asks if that wasn't why she was saying those things. Suddenly, the tutor appears and finds them, leaving everyone surprised by his arrival. Dane gets up and thanks Eri for her help, and she is glad to see him safe and sound. The master asks what Seere is doing there, and she says she came to welcome him back from the battle. He smiles and thinks that now that he has cleared the area, it's a good chance for her to gain experience. He says the castle is empty and asks her, and the commander to take care of the rest. The tutor then turns to Eri and Dane, and praises their good work after 5 years. He promises to give them their own missions and tells them to rest calmly until then. With the floor conquered, he says that all that's left is to find what he's been looking for. In the castle, Decorabia kneels, defeated and with no strength left to continue fighting. Seere and the commander face him, and she comments on how he's not so strong anymore. The commander is impressed with the master's ancient magic and wonders how he learned it. Decorabia curses Seere and says she created a monster, and the commander warns her. Angrily, the girl grabs Decorabia's neck and squeezes it with force and hatred. He despairs and asks what she's going to do with him, and the commander intervenes. She looks at her queen with a serious gaze and reminds her that she must keep him alive. Seere smiles and says she knows that and won't get rid of him, but will have some fun with him. The commander warns that he'll perish at this rate, and he begs to be put out of his misery. The girl is surprised by his weakness and didn't expect him to give in so easily. She then asks the commander to take care of him, because the master would hate to see her do this. The girl says thanks, and the tutor suddenly appears and asks the reason for the thanks. She gets startled and says it's nothing, and the master is suspicious of their strange attitude. He then sees Decorabia's body on the floor and approaches to confirm his identity. With a serious look, he says she must be honest, and she apologizes to her teacher. The tutor approaches Decorabia and says she really hurt him badly. He lifts him up and says at least he's not gone, but Decorabia would rather be. The commander asks why he kept him alive, and he says he's not like Dantalion. With a smile, he says he won't let him live, but will use him for his plans. He then asks if Seere knows about the Starstone, and she confirms it's from the floor. The man says he will use Crowley to confirm what Decorabia says about the mines. Seere asks why not capture the others, and he says that demons can't be controlled. He then says it was good, and that he had no idea his strength was so great. He then turns, and a woman in a black dress and horns appears in the throne room. Seere says she heard he needed her and comments on the interesting scenes she found. Seere gets annoyed seeing her and realizes it's because of her that she can't go up. The white-haired girl wonders if her master will use his ability in front of her. Seere asks them to take Seere out of there, and he agrees, saying he needs to concentrate. The commander and Seere leave the room, and he prepares to use his special ability. The girl asks how Seere will find the mines if her ability is fire. Seere approaches Decarabia and says there's something she'd like to know from him. She then asks him to reveal the location of the mines, and her eyes glow with power. She says he can tell her everything, and a pink energy surrounds the two of them in the room. Her power doesn't work on someone of equal level, but in his state, he will yield. Decarabia reveals the location, and Seere rewards him with a feeling of warmth and pleasure. Seere thanks him for his help, and he says they need a new source of income and an item. With that, the horned woman asks if he isn't being greedy, but says she helped find the mine. The tutor says that because she asked so directly, he wants to change the deal, and she gets annoyed. He then says he'll split the starstones if she lets the floor officially be hers. He then calls her shameless for wanting to take a castle without sending a single soldier. Seere gets nervous and says that if she conquers floors, everyone will keep an eye on her and her power. At this, he smiles and says she's noticed, and the woman gets annoyed and asks if he thinks she's an idiot. He then offers half the production and asks if she accepts the alliance proposal. She extends her hand and thinks that half the production is a risk worth taking now. Seere then grabs the man's hands from behind and says they have a deal. The tutor says Seere should handle this, and the girl smiles with the responsibility. With that, the white-haired girl looks at Seere with blue eyes, intimidating her with her gaze. The horned woman says a quick goodbye and says she's leaving, and Seere wonders what got into him. He then asks if the girl wants to go on the trip before or after settling everything there. The man suggests he take care of the mines, and she agrees and calls him teacher, excited. Later in her room, Seere looks at her hand and thinks it's been a while since he's held it. She thinks she's not a child anymore and that he can't pamper her, but she still wants him to. With a smile, she thinks that on their trip, she will hold his hand as much as she wants. Elsewhere, a winged creature asks if the mine is abandoned and if it can sleep. The tutor explains that he brought it so it could use its ability to differentiate ores. He tells it to look for a golden bracelet in the deepest layers, and the creature obeys. With a nod, the man says he doesn't know the reason, and the creature thinks he's hiding something. He thinks it's strange, and that it makes no sense to hide something there, since it's just a game. Looking around, he thinks that Decarabia lived like a king just with these starstones. With a smile, he says that now half of all that belongs to them, and the creature is startled. He then prepares himself, as the news will reach the lords, and they might form an army. Suddenly, the creature calls him and says it found something that isn't a starstone. With his hand glowing, a material screen appears, and he casts a spell on the ore. His extraction magic glows, and the energy concentrates on the ore cart in front of him. An intense green light comes from his hand and extracts the item that was hidden inside. A golden bracelet floats up, and he praises the good work of his winged servant, Argol. He picks up the item and remembers its name is the ancient golden bracelet, and that it increases growth. A screen shows the bracelet's stats, and Argol is surprised by the item's power. Argol shrinks back and asks him to withdraw his mana, because it's too strong, and he is surprised. The creature says it felt its body about to break, and the man apologizes for the excess. In a room, the advisor asks if they really need a blood seal, and the girl confirms it. Seere threatens to do the same thing she did to Decarabia, and the advisor agrees to make the seal. With his finger, he seals the document and says he has completed the task given to him. The girl then warns him to answer quickly since he was once a demon lord and knows how it works. With the seal in his hand, he calls her Majesty, and she says they are finished and can go. She then asks the tutor if she did something wrong, and he praises her for acting like a lord. The girl gets excited and says she wants to go to a quiet place with a beautiful view and few people. He agrees and says he will prepare everything for tomorrow and that she can rest for today. With a smile, he hands her the golden bracelet and says he prepared it for her. The girl happily takes the gift and thanks her teacher for the unexpected surprise. He tells her to always wear it, and the girl thinks she can't let him go, no matter what. In a human city called Chelano, Dane says it's been a while since he's been in the human realm. In a flashback, the tutor sends them to investigate the drop in the number of humans on the second floor. Dane says he's going to the city of Hermes, and that they'll meet once a month there. Irie asks if they'll be able to blend in with fake identities, and Dane calms her down. The young man says he knows it's hard to accept, but this is the reality they face now. He then reminds her that there's no one left who remembers them there, as a long time has passed. With that, the young man warns her to be careful and not get involved with strange people, and the girl gets annoyed. He then hands her a necklace and tells her to use it if anything dangerous happens to her. He explains that it's a warning, and if hers breaks, his will too, and then he says goodbye. The girl walks alone and complains that he treats her like a disaster, but someone calls her. At that moment, 4 men surround her and tell her to hand everything over, and the young woman thinks her friend was right. She says they don't look like real bandits, and asks why they are doing this. One of the men gets angry and says the country is in chaos, and they have no other choice. The girl is surprised, and the man explains that the 5 great houses have gone crazy and are attacking the people. He is amazed that she doesn't know, and the young woman says she spent 5 years in the mountains, and they feel sorry for her. Then one of them thinks she's lost her memory and invites her to go with them, but she refuses the offer. One of the men is doubtful and says if a knight heard her, he'd call her a witch, and she is surprised. He says the temple announced that the disappearances were the fault of witches hiding in the human kingdom. The man then says they destroy villages and take the children, and one of them laments for his daughter. The girl finds it strange that knights would act without proof, and that adventurers would let themselves be used. One of the men says she doesn't understand, and that the announcement came from the Grand Temple of the Holy Kingdom. He adds that when the Pope speaks, everyone must obey, and the young woman is in shock. Elsewhere, we see the Grand Temple under the moonlight on a starry and calm night. Inside the temple, a shower is seen, and water falls in a luxurious and elegant bathroom. Suddenly, an older man in a robe comes out of a room with a smile on his face, looking excited. He approaches a woman lying down and asks how the investigation into the demons is going. The man introduces himself as Pope Cernius and reports that they found collaborators of the demons. The Pope thanks her, and she says he's the one doing all the hard work and praises him greatly. He kneels beside her and says she is the only one who truly appreciates his efforts. The woman named Lily gives the Pope a mischievous smile and looks at him with her red eyes.